Hello and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Pick a Side podcast. My name is Moran and I'm here with John Tortorelli, Andrew Velez, and Joe Dehls. And this is now episode 436. In this episode, we are going to recap NFL Week 15, talk about the biggest storylines that happened, Week 15 takeaways, and the NBA. The NBA Cup final is nearing. Bucks versus OKC. Dennis Schroder got traded to the Golden State Warriors, and much more, fellas. How we doing?
I'm doing pretty great. Another week of football, another Victory Monday. Didn't start the greatest.
Victory fucking Monday.
Yeah, it's about time. and it's finally Victory Monday on the show.
And that's exactly what I was going to say to you guys. We're all celebrating Victory Monday.
First time, long time.
Not for my guy over here, but
you can check
if Riv would have been here, we all would have been celebrating Victory Monday. Riv is not going to be here. Obviously, he's on cruise. He's enjoying his best life.
He's on vacation.
He's living life, and I'm very envious, jealous because the cruise sounds lit. Nah, he just kind of goes on. I forget where the cruise is, but like him and Marlon, they just go facts. Yeah. But now this is the second straight year that he's missing my birthday. Friend.
Yeah.
But a great week of football for the Denver Broncos and the Denver Broncos only. It's the only thing that I felt went right for me this past week. In the picks, you guys got one over me.
Yep.
That was big. The Seattle
Riv
Packers,
had a great week.
He went nuts.
Yeah,
he had what, 12 wins because he picked Seattle too.
In the Bills and the Texans.
No matter what.
It doesn't fail.
That's it. And sometimes it pays off like weeks like this one. Mr. Tortorelli, you're falling off.
On what?
On the
pick 'em,
picks.
you were right up there with
you
the
really
top
were.
You know
for
what?
a while.
My strategy is I'm going to go out swinging. And for 5 straight Thursday nights, I went with a swing, and they should have won, and they folded.
Did you pick the Niners this past week?
No, I actually got the Niners. That was the first time in 6 weeks I got my Thursday night football pick right.
Oh, so you picked the Rams.
Rams. You're saying?
Yeah, I picked the Rams.
Yeah, okay.
But every other week, I remember picking the Bengals over the Ravens, and a lot of other picks that
came close.
It came very close.
Very close.
I think the Thanksgiving day really messed you up. You picked the Giants over the Cowboys.
Yeah, if Matt Eberflus,
the Bears.
That
over
was
the
dumb
Lions.
as fuck. I'm sorry.
If Matt Eberflus ever played Madden before, I could have been right on that Bears pick.
I'm with you.
And then secondly, my other 2 picks, I think I went 1 of 2 on, but I had the right idea.
The Giants over the Cowboys was bad. It was bad. Giants are the worst team I've ever seen in my life.
At that point in the season, it was, I think, a pretty good take, and then the Giants, really fell off a cliff.
Wait, what?
The Giants.
At that point in the season, they were never good.
Literally,
there was no
starting.
point in the season
The
where
game
the
was
Giants
close.
were good.
It was close, and then the Cowboys took control.
The Cowboys weren't that much better at that point.
Why
in the
at that
season.
time?
I thought the Cowboys were going to start the tank and not play for Mike McCarthy's job, and the inverse thing happened.
And now the Cowboys are faking the hunt.
Meanwhile, I thought that Drew Lock was going to play a lot better with them switching quarterbacks.
He's terrible.
Yeah,
He's
Tim
so
Boyle
bad.
clears.
Jared Jones says that McCarthy, or I don't know if Jared Jones said it, but the report is McCarthy's job might not be over.
God.
Might be back for another
The
season.
Cowboys have a whopping 1% chance to make the playoffs now. At
Were they
6-8.
6-8?
Yeah,
You
they're
take it.
6-8. Yeah,
You take
it's not nothing.
If you're a Cowboys fan, you live to see another day.
They have played well since Micah Parsons came back, and then you got DeRon Bland coming back. Only if Dak was healthy, man, or if they would have beat the Bengals on Monday Night Football, they had a chance in that game. They could have been in the hunt, but
Hot take,
Trayvon
but the
also.
Cowboys
Things
should have
happen.
tried to tank with Dak being out the entire year. Them winning as many games as they have just to finish 7-10 or 8-9, just plummeting your draft stock. If you're not gonna make the playoffs in this type of season, they should have went as high as they could have. In the
I just
draft.
feel like
And
it's
trade that
impossible to
pick.
tank in the NFL
It is so hard.
unless you actively build
Your team has to
a
suck.
terrible roster.
Exactly. Your team has to be really
Like
bad.
you have to actively hire the wrong head coach, build a terrible team like the Dolphins did when they were trying to tank
No,
for
I'm
Tua.
with you.
You have to do that. Because players that are playing physical and tackling like that, putting their lives on the line every week, they're not going to actively just lose.
No.
They have to
That's
much
true,
put
but you
pride.
lost
good
your
things on
quarterback for
tape.
the season.
And McCarthy's he's fine for a job. Like McCarthy's not going to go out there and just half-ass his game plan because if he goes 3-14, he knows his job is done. If you fight, and
That's
I agree,
why
John.
they should have moved McCarthy a year ago.
Yeah,
and
no,
had a
I
different coach
also agree with
who would
that.
have the job security.
And you see Dable versus the Ravens trying to go for it on 4th down, losing his mind when they don't convert. It means something to these guys. They have pride like any normal human being. They don't want to get embarrassed on TV.
What do
When
we
you're
think
losing, you get more aggressive, like the Jeff Ulbrich fake punt call.
Yeah,
Ashton
I think
Davis.
desperate is maybe the word. What do you guys think of the John Mara, planes that have been going on MetLife the last couple of weeks? Have you guys seen
I
them?
haven't seen that.
I have seen.
What
It's
do you think
understandable.
about the UFOs?
Oh, the drones?
Oh, the drones
Yes.
is a better conversation.
The
Fuck
drones,
John
yeah.
Mara.
Because we're in the heart of it in New Jersey. And
I
people
haven't
are saying
seen it
they
yet.
saw it.
Really?
I have not seen them
Nah,
yet.
I've seen a few of them.
I'll be honest, you can hear, I haven't been fast enough to catch it outside, but there have been times where I hear something over my house, like, and it's not like a helicopter, and it makes like my house rumble, like it makes it shake. Yeah, and then I was with JC, I think Friday, and we were just watching the game, and a UFO. I don't know if it was a UFO, so I'm not gonna say it was, but something like that passed by, and we tried to go outside, and it just left. It was quick. Some people have said they seen it. There's a lot of conspiracy theories going on about that.
A lot of people, it's real as shit. Like, it's definitely real. I think the most probable cause is there's something here that the government knows and they don't want us to know. Because I don't think it's like a different country. I think if it was an actual threat to Americans, we would know. It would get shot down or something. Like, I do not think the government is going to let fucking Iran or North Korea going to come with these drones that have bombs on them to go destroy New York City and New Jersey. Like, that would be ridiculous. But there's something here that the government's trying to find out and just trying to be coy with it. They're not doing a very good job, though. Like, if you're going to be in one of the most densely populated cities and towns and sections of the world, people are going to realize it and they're going to record it and it's going to be out there. That's why it's all over the news and they're having hearings about it. And you hear about these hearings and the government's basically saying, yeah, we don't know what it is. They're trying to hide something. I don't know what it is. People are saying like radiation, like they think it's like some bombs that got missing or something. They're trying to find where they are. It's really weird though.
You're deep into this lore.
I'm in it for sure.
He's getting a recommended on
I'm
TikTok.
here listening like, whoa, this is breaking news to me.
Well, because the other piece of this is, have you guys heard about the Google's like new computer chip?
No.
So Google recently created in the last couple of weeks this new computer chip that is like 1,000 million times smarter than any computer we ever had, right? So it has this capability, whatever, that would take any other computer 10 septillion years, which is longer than like the universe itself. Like the universe would explode if it took that long. This Google chip did it in 5 minutes, which basically proves that there's some sort of multiverse out there. Because for it to go through all of the different combinations it went through, there's just no way for it to do it within the time period unless it's like grabbing shit from like parallel universes. And this kind of came out around the same time as the drones, which is why people are thinking that there might be some sort of connection there.
There's also this other conspiracy theory I heard about. It's called the blue beam theory, the blue light beam theory, something like that. It's something along those lines, that the government is trying to plan out an alien invasion. Like, they're actively trying to plan it out to create panic within the citizens.
Why would they do that on purpose, though?
I don't know. That's just a theory that's out there.
About to go Thanos, like because population's getting too crazy?
Yeah, I guess. But I guess just to maybe unite everybody, because I don't think it's just within the country. I think it's like a whole world thing, like the billionaires. That's a theory, that they're trying to plan out this like world alien invasion to make everybody kind of like group together, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Us like have humans like we're so divided right now with politics and whatnot.
Yeah, I guess.
You know what that reminds me of? There was this movie, Don't Look Up. It's a movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, and the whole big thing is that there's this asteroid or meteor that is coming directly beeline for Earth that's going to blow it up, essentially. They go and deliver this news to the government, and like, we could shoot this down. We're telling you now, if we don't stop this, the Earth is going to implode. So then it becomes like this whole big political thing, whether or not you think that it's real or not. They're telling people don't look up into the sky, because if you looked up into the sky, you could see a giant, what looked like a star coming towards Earth. And it became like the whole thing. Do we shoot it down? Do we not? And then they ended up not shooting it down. Obviously, one thing leads to another. But you had all the millionaires going to outer space. They're taking flights. They're getting off of Earth. And then everybody else gets hit by this meteor and the Earth explodes. That's immediately what it brings me to.
It just sucks that it's like the average person could do nothing about those type of events.
That's essentially what I'm trying to say. It's like, yeah, the billionaires, the millionaires, they're going to be okay if they really, really think that shit's going to be crazy.
Gotta go to work, gotta pay bills. It don't really matter. You're not like...
No. Shit, I ain't worried about that.
No, there's nothing that we can do about it.
I was over here looking at the UFO stuff on TikTok too, and in the back of my mind, I'm just like, there ain't nothing I can do about this.
Not at all.
It really does not matter. Like, I'm looking into it. I'm like trying to dive into it.
Like, during my lifetime, if some shit like that happened, it'd be dope. You know what I mean?
I'm sure people are hoping and praying. There's some people that probably dedicated their life to this. I know they're real. people are going to feel pretty validated.
I saw a tweet that said if we interact with aliens, the first person we should send out is Jameis Winston. That's what the tweet said. There was a lot of things that happened this week. I feel like in pop culture in general, this UFO thing has been a big thing. This is pop culture in the sense because I think it's like a big thing people are talking about. Travis Hunter won the Heisman, but I wanted to talk to you guys not about the Heisman thing itself.
His girlfriend?
What do you think about Travis Hunter's girlfriend? Because this is like a big topic. People are actively like hating on her. They're telling Travis to like just like
break up with her.
It's kind of insane.
This conversation can get dicey. I say that we're a group of guys talking on another man's fiance. Let's just throw that out there. So obviously, Travis, do what you want to do, King. Love her if you want to love her. If you feel like this is your forever, who the fuck are we to tell you what to do? It is interesting to watch that video. Obviously, Travis is going to be a superstar. He already is a superstar. You win the Heisman, you're signed and sealed for the rest of your life, essentially. He's taking pictures with fans. Like, he's doing a cool thing. We hope that players like him are like him and are willing to be cool enough to take a moment out of their day to take a picture with them, because it's a minor thing that fans really appreciate. And then seeing her kind of give him a little bit of an attitude, like, come on, you're going to do this. Like, I just want to spend time with you type deal. It's like, this is his life. This is his career. This is what he's dedicated his time to. And there's people that love him, that really, really love Travis Hunter. It's actually something that less than 1% of people get to experience a type of fame like that. He's living a luxurious life that he's earned for himself. There's where it comes a little bit of selfishness there, and I can understand where everybody's coming about it. But, that's just one clip. We can't just let one clip go, and then people are also gassing up the Heisman. When the Heisman is announced and the mom stands up, Dion stands up, and then Schroder stands up, but the girlfriend's still sitting there.
It took a while for the mom to stand up, though.
I was going to say, the mom definitely did take a little bit to stand up, but she got up on her own, and then you kind of see Dion kind of be like, yo, come on, go give him a hug, go show him some love. I don't know. To me, it's 1-2 moments that we don't know about their private life. Travis put a video out there. He's like, listen, what do you guys know about love? Y'all never had girls. That's where I'm just like, all right, relax. You don't got to start clowning people. But he's not too wrong.
He might not be talking about you.
Yeah,
He's not talking about you.
There's definitely some lames in the world that are hating on him and his situation that have had negative interaction with a female.
No, they're just preying on his downfall. I feel like, when you look into internet interactions, you got to realize who is the one talking, like who's the one interacting. Like last week, there was this whole Sydney Sweeney thing that happened that people are like, oh, she's catfishing us because, it's just a regular picture of her.
Can I also say this? If you look at the picture, one, she has no makeup. That's number one. People see a girl without no makeup and think, oh my God, she's catfishing. Every girl wears makeup. It does not matter. If you see them in public, 9 out of 10 times, if they're famous, they have makeup on. If they are chilling at home and they don't think anybody's weirding out and taking pictures of them in their private time, yeah, they're probably not going to have makeup on. But one thing that I will notice, if you see the way she's sitting down, she has negative rolls when she's leaning over. I promise you right now, I unzip my jacket, I take my shirt off, I got multiple rolls. I'm not a fat dude. I'm not a big guy. If you think she's fat, one, you need to figure some things out. All right, respectfully. And two, what are we doing? Understand that everybody has roles. I've seen I've seen professional athletes. Alexis Sanchez comes to mind immediately. He scores a goal, he takes his shirt off, and he's laying over, and he's got roles. It's like, yo, she didn't have them. So is she really fat? I don't really think so.
John, are you against a Sydney Sweeney slander?
Do you want me to show you? I got you.
What you're talking about, but you got a good point though. If I lean forward, I'm like 160, 170. You're gonna see like 2 or 3.
That's what I'm saying. It's normal.
Yeah. But that's what the internet has become, though. I feel like with the Travis Hunter situation, people are entitled to their own opinion on things. I think the most jarring thing that people are most upset about is the fact that, what do you think about that, John?
You see what I'm saying? Yeah. She's leaned over and she has no role whatsoever. She's actually insanely fit for that.
Who's getting those flicks?
Exactly.
TMZ.
Yeah. Some weirdos.
Yeah, TMZ.
Like climbing in a tree type shit.
Yeah, that happens with celebrities.
It looks like she's just posted up.
In the backyard or something.
No, that type of fame is crazy, bro.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Yeah, that type of fame is just a different level of fame where you really have no privacy.
I can understand being good off that, but that also means I'm mad rich. Yeah, that's what it means to me. Like, I get there's a trade-off.
Just giving it.
I'm mad rich.
More people who are rich and not that level of famous.
You're
the
cooking,
opposite, you know?
All right.
Oh yeah, Dehls is tapped in with the Wall Street fellas. Yeah, he's tapped in. No, but yeah, like the Travis Hunter thing. I feel like the most damning piece of evidence really was the fact that they made a YouTube clip together, and in the vlog, basically she was talking about how Travis Hunter and her, they met at first, and she said at first he wasn't my type.
Yeah, this is
I
crazy.
think that's what pisses a lot of people off.
Yeah, that's what started.
You
That's
just
what
make
got
the assumption, you go off of there, like, oh, you're not his type, but then all of a sudden he's this 5-star athlete, he goes to Colorado. Like,
She
I get
talked
that.
to a homegirl. She like, oh, nah, I gotta
Are
hit
you
him
stupid?
back up. Yeah.
Are you stupid? Yo, go hit him up right now. Type
Yeah,
shit.
they've
No,
been
for
together
real.
for like 5 years, and I know that like Travis Hunter has been like a top level athlete for that time period, but to expect her to think that he's going to be like some NFL star 5 years ago, I don't know if you're going that far. And I feel like when you spend that much time with somebody, 5 years of your time, you're spending the time just chilling, doing normal shit, having deep conversations. People make way too many assumptions online about somebody's relationship based off a couple clips that surface or microaggressions.
Yeah, there was also a report, I'll try to find it, about Travis Hunter like not getting any NIL money, but he was giving it to his teammates.
Yeah, that was
like
lit.
that.
They're like 15, 20 heads on the squad that he just takes all his money and gives them to.
Yeah.
That was real.
I think
he seems like a good dude.
what was it? Was it Deion Sanders Jr.? Deion's son said that.
This person, whoever Bucky is, I don't know who Bucky is. Deion Sanders Jr. I don't know, whatever. But yeah, he said he receives no money from the NIL collective. Instead, he's one of the biggest donors, pays 10 to 15 of his teammates' NIL deals out of his own pocket.
He's dumb real.
Wow,
Travis is lit. Listen, if I told you that I was rooting against him to win the Heisman, I'd be lying to you. I wanted Janty to win. I did. But understand, you play 90% of snaps. That's something that we never see. And do it at that high of a level. He was more than deserving. I wanted Janty to win because I thought I was watching history every single time he touched the football. That's just the truth.
30 tuds is 30 tuds.
And the fact that you have over 1,000 yards after contact, you are, what do you have? 5 70-yard touchdowns.
Basically had 2,500 yards on the season.
4th most rushing yards in FBS history. Dude, he's a superstar.
There was a stat that Nico tweeted that if you took away Genty's longest run every single game, he would have still averaged over 5 yards a carry.
That's what you were telling me.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Over 5 yards a carry at that biggest play.
Like,
That's
dude,
nice.
it was one of the greatest seasons I've ever seen a player have. I don't care that he went to Boise. Actually made me like it even more because I really love Boise State. I see that blue turf. It fires me the fuck up.
That was my favorite team as a kid. Doug Martin, Kellen Moore. Yeah,
Kellen, I was going to say,
a fire college
They
squad
produce
had.
running backs.
Yeah.
That's just what produces running
facts,
backs.
Cook. But I will say, Travis, he deserves everything that he's going to get in life. The dude is amazing, and I'm excited to see how he carries over into the NFL, what he's going to do, whether he's going to decide to do half and half, if he's going to be full-time DB, full-time wide receiver. Either which way, I think he's going to be great.
Yeah, I think he should be a DB with like packages at receiver, because it's impossible to be a full-time wide receiver and like have DB packages. Like you just can't,
Yeah.
But he
These are
could
the
be a
opposite.
full-time DB and he could get in for like a couple plays every single game.
It
and
reminds me of
watch.
like Pat Pete. Like Pat Pete was doing that early in his
He
career.
did it very seldomly, though. I think it partially depends on the team that he goes to.
Marcus Jones, the Pats corner, got a
Facts,
rushing
he
attempt
did.
yesterday, right?
Yeah, he did.
Every once in a while, he gets in on offense, but I think Hunter will be, far more utilized.
Oh, good God. You're watching the Patriots? I feel bad for you.
Drake May.
Nobody's watching them, man.
Drake May.
At this point in the season.
I'll be honest, I had Drake May and Kyler going in fantasy. I was watching. That was one of the 4 games I was watching.
You're welcome.
My
Drake
God.
facts.
Kyler had no touchdowns.
No, he was mid. He was super mid.
Man, thank God I dropped him.
Kills me to watch because I needed Marvin. He hates him. I hate watching. He doesn't hate him. I don't want people to think I'm not watching. I saw multiple times he was targeting him in the red zone.
Oh my
Gonzalez
God, he
just
should
had
have.
him.
One of them, Marvin's got to catch.
It
Man.
was right in the
first
bread
one,
basket.
yeah.
But I'll give it to Gonzalez.
For sure.
He did get a
Made a
swipe
great
in.
play.
Fair.
Made a great play.
But that was a perfect pass.
It was.
a perfect pass.
You know who cooked Gonzalez, right?
Let me hear it. Garrett Wilson.
Brian Thomas Jr.
Oh, Brian Thomas is one of them ones.
He's cooked every single corner that's matched.
He's the
his
best
own.
rookie wide receiver in his class.
He's a fucking.
You've been
It's no
saying
doubt.
that.
Yeah, he's the best.
Interesting.
He's going to be the best.
When the
Interesting.
Steelers were on the
Yes.
board at 20, and I saw that they passed up on Brian Thomas, I was super heated, and I was like, okay, it took Troy Fautanu.
Oh no, I've been a
okay.
Brian Thomas
But
guy
even
since the
then,
draft. I was the only one on this show to do
The
that.
fact that he fell in the 20s is pretty wild.
Not
Like
it
that
is.
guy.
I mean,
No,
we
it
do
is
a redraft
nuts.
right now. Who's
Yeah.
the first receiver
No,
off
that's
the
the
board?
thing. That's your guy, but you didn't. Brian Thomas Jr. just has more upside than Marv.
I appreciate it. Obviously, I really was high on Brian Thomas, so much so I was thinking that he could be a top 10 guy. But regardless, I still respect the prospect of Marv. I respect Malik. I respect Rome, but right now he clears Rome to me. It's a conversation between the big three of him, Marv, and Malik. And I know Ladd by the numbers has been up there with those three guys too. But you look at what Brian and Malik have been able to do this season, especially given situation with the Giants. Malik Neighbors still has been incredible. But even after Trev goes down, you see him having success with Mac Jones. Not that Mac Jones is garbage and doesn't deserve to be an NFL quarterback. Like he's a passable backup.
It's a good backup.
But he's still out there dominating against pretty high level DBs. Brian Thomas is a freak of nature.
If he didn't have that rib injury, though, he's like 2 weeks, a few weeks ago, where he like had basically put up zeros. Like he was more or less a decoy. If he was 100% healthy and he's giving you those 70 or 80 yards, he would probably be. I think he deserves to be in the conversation for Rookie of the Year. I think when you look at what Brock Bowers is doing, it's hard to make a case for Brian Thomas over Bowers because the numbers go with Bowers and the situation is just as bad, if not worse. But Brian Thomas, he's been the most impressive receiver, and everything he does is just so effortless. I mean, the play he had on the left side of the field against the Jets, where he was just a little in-breaking route, he takes it like 40 yards up the field. The touchdown he had, just outrunning the Jets DBs on like just a simple kind of slant route to score in the end zone. He's one of the best receivers in football right now. I think what he's doing right now is what we were expecting Marvin Harrison to do off rip.
No doubt.
Right? The fact that he's doing this with all of the weapons, the quarterbacks being injured, the weapons being injured too. Christian Kirk's hurt, Gabe Davis is hurt, Evan Ingram is hurt. Like it's him and Parker Washington is the wide receiver too for these last couple of weeks, and it hasn't mattered. He's still gone out there and dominated.
And I think the great thing about how they're utilizing him is that they're putting him in a slot much more now. And he was getting mismatches against us so often. I don't know why Jeff Ulbrich doesn't want to shadow Sauce on receivers. It really has made no sense all season long.
Carter's getting cooked.
Brian Thomas Jr. to me, he's already a top 10 wide receiver. I'm doing a rough draft of my top wide receivers list, and I have like 40 names that I'm going to eventually like list out because there's a lot of wide receivers. But this is a rough draft. This is not my solidified top 10. I still have to probably move people around. But number 1 is Justin Jefferson. Number 2 is Jamar Chase. Number 3 is A.J. Brown. Number 4 is CeeDee Lamb. Number 5 is Tyreek Hill. Number 6 is Nico Collins. Number 7 is Puka Nacua. Number 8 is Amon-Ra St. Brown. Number 9 is Terry McLaurin. And number 10 is Brian Thomas Jr. There's not another wide receiver that I think I could legitimately take over Brian Thomas Jr. I respect Drake London. I respect Garrett Wilson. I respect these other young receivers like Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr., but they just don't have the full package like Brian Thomas Jr. has.
What about Mike Evans?
He's been cooked.
That's the respectable Hall of Fame, first ballot Hall of Fame guy.
He's still doing it, though. You know what I mean? Like, if he was... And I'll say this, and not trying to slight him at all, because these last few weeks, Devontae has definitely figured it out. Yeah. And last game, he goes and has 140 in 4 minutes, something crazy. I think it's an NFL record for yards in that quick of a time span. But Devontae's a first ballot Hall of Famer, in my opinion. I think he'll get into Canton. But I look at Mike Evans, and I look at Devontae Adams, and Mike Evans is a threat every single time he's out on that football field. And I know that Devontae Adams, especially last year, was situation with the Raiders, was one of the most targeted, had one of the most receptions in the league. You know Tay is still great. But this year, between him and Mike every single week is making an impact on the game, and it also leads to his team being majority of the time the winner.
I could definitely hear that. But yeah, Brian Thomas Jr. to me is like already in that conversation of just one of the great receivers, and with his package, with his athleticism, he could break into the elite tier. Like, he has that level of talent to do that. So he's balling in Jacksonville. There's no doubt.
I think Tyreek's a little high.
Tyreek Hill is like 6.
Number 5.
You'd have Nico over him?
I'd have Nico over him.
Yeah, he is 5, yeah.
Also, A.J. Brown, number 3. I get it. Especially when you go by the analytics. Obviously, he's out there and he's dominating single coverage. But all the best are going to dominate single coverage. I think him and Nico is still a conversation. You see the difference in the offense with the Texans when he's out of the lineup, when he's in the lineup. Even this past week versus Miami, they had... I believe CJ had 2 touchdowns. Nico only had 4 catches, but 2 impactful catches as well, getting into the end zone. I don't know. I really love Nico's game. Understand that he can beat you in similar facets like an A.J. Brown. I think the two are so similar to one another, but to have the gap of 3 to 6 with Nico, that's the only thing that stands out. But those are pretty much the right guys.
Yeah, I just still can't disrespect Tyreek Hill, even though he's having a down year. And I think I did disrespect him. I'll put him on at like
I think that was perfectly valid.
He's just not in that tier no more.
CeeDee Lamb is 3. That's how I would have it personally. I think CeeDee Lamb, especially this year, last year, the statistics, that speaks for itself. But this year, still being top 3 in receiving yards, with the majority of your season, at least the way it's going to finish, being with Cooper Rush. Dude, CeeDee Lamb has exceeded anything I thought he would ever be.
His production is insane. That's why, with these lists, it's a combination of production and just like eye tests. You know, because I think if A.J. Brown got force-fed the type of targets CeeDee got, he could put up those type of numbers. I mean, he was on pace to do it last year. Mm-hmm. How many games in a row did he have 100 yards receiving?
5 something.
Yeah, he was on a heater, and then they just stopped going to his direction. The Eagles' offense was always a little bit clunky last year. So, I don't know. I just think A.J. Brown, like physical specimen-wise, he like has all those physical traits that you want.
I don't disagree.
In a receiver. But first topic of the show, NFL. Josh Allen, is he the MVP right now? This is a big discussion.
It's huge.
On Twitter, it's getting heated now because people are like, Josh Allen is the media's MVP. They're trying to push him down their throats.
The GOAT tweet was somebody calling him Joel Embiid. Like, here you go, bro. Damn, shut up.
You had Swiper Cam pull up the stat head.
I love when Swiper pulls up the stat heads.
What the fuck is Joe Burrow doing in there?
When he pulls up the stat heads, it always cracks me up.
What do you mean what's Joe Burrow doing in
facts.
there?
Come on.
I get the logic of Joe Burrow being in there because statistically...
Should LaMelo be in the MVP race this year?
Listen, I'm not going to...
Who?
LaMelo. Statistically,
he's not even playing.
He's hurt.
He hasn't played in a month.
Statistically, he's hooping. But I get where you're coming from. When you look at the Bengals, even with him playing at this level, they're losing games.
It's not a knock against Joe Burrow.
No,
it's not a knock whatsoever.
No, it's not. Man, did you see him on the sideline when he was chewing Zach Taylor out? That got me going.
He's having a top 3 season.
Joe Burrow was like, what is there to be happy about? We're 6-8.
You some water?
Right.
Were you trying to say Russell Wilson was free in the? No.
No, I'm straight.
You guys having a coughing attack. Do you need some water?
Bro?
I'll be fine.
Right here.
Yeah, well, right here. Is that yours?
It is.
Yeah,
It's full.
It could be yours if you need it.
Okay,
It's like you need it, bro. Jesus Christ.
Let's go.
This guy's about to pass out. Yeah.
Holy shit.
Now I don't have any water for the show.
Air sip.
No.
Yeah, air sip.
Yeah, that's actually smart.
It's a waterfall, guys.
I feel like you
need
call
that
it a
one.
waterfall.
Huh?
Yeah.
You're a waterfall guy?
No, I didn't do a water.
Okay, no. What do you
I
call
thought
it?
you
Is that an air
What do
sip
you
or a
call
waterfall?
drinking from somebody else's bottle of water without it touching your lips? What
Air
you just
sip.
did. That
Yeah,
you call it an
sip.
air
Yeah,
sip.
you know
Yeah.
ball.
Okay.
Fucking people calling it a waterfall.
I think that's
People
dumb
in the
as hell.
comments are gonna call me stupid for that shit too. Like,
I'm
you
a
know, get a
waterfall.
grip.
I'm listening to make
Anyways,
sense,
I'm
but
not
the Josh Allen conversation, is he the MVP right now? Do you think the criticisms on Josh Allen that he is being pushed by the media are fair? Do you think it's valid? Dehls, I'll start with you.
I think it's a 2-man race. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. This is probably the closest race we've had in a while. I think a couple of years ago when it was Mahomes and Jalen Hurts, that went really down to the wire. Then the last couple of games, Hurts ended up not playing. He was a bit banged up, and they already secured the bye. But that one was about as close as it's been. And I feel like last season, Lamar Jackson was the MVP, but he didn't have this overwhelming season that made voters or made the media, anyone who was talking about it, be like, Lamar's the clear and obvious, right? I think there's a few guys in the mix. Right now, it's a 2-man race. Credit to Joe Burrow. What he's been doing has been sensational. He has been the only reason the Bengals have been competent this season. If you put even an above average starter into that situation, this Bengals team might have 2 wins on the season. He's been sensational. But Josh Allen, Lamar, they've just winning too many games right now that put them ahead. To decide between these two quarterbacks, it's really difficult. Because statistically, you could look at both of them, and you could look at Lamar Jackson, the best touchdown interception ratio in the league, the best passer rating in the league. But you look at Josh Allen, he's number 1 EPA, number 1 success rate. So no matter which way you slice it, their numbers are damn about even. It's about as close as you're going to get. I think Lamar has a bit more total yards. I think he has like maybe 1 more touchdown and a couple more less interceptions. But for the most part, these guys are putting up statistically insane numbers. I mean, these are 2 of the best individual seasons we're seeing from a quarterback in a long, long time. For all of the shit we gave earlier in the season, the last couple of years, how offenses have not been as prolific as we've seen the last 5 to 10 years, they're kind of cutting that narrative down because statistically, these guys are putting up some of the best seasons we have seen in our lifetime. And then in terms of team success, because that's typically where the second, part of this comes from, right? Individually, what are you doing? And team-wise, what are you doing? Well, on one hand, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, they smoked the Bills. They went out there and they dominated them. That was probably the worst Bills loss all season long. And on the other hand, these last 2 weeks, Josh Allen went out there and he beat the Detroit Lions. And although he lost to the Rams, he put up 42 points. There's only so much you can do. But being the Detroit Lions, who I think for a lot of people were the number one team, best team in the NFL, to go on the road and do it, where all of us took the Lions outside of Riv, who's sticking with his Buffalo Bills, that's a win that is going to put you maybe just slightly ahead of Lamar Jackson. Because if the Bills and the Ravens played in week 16, when it is fresh on everyone's mind before you do the vote, and Lamar Jackson goes out there and does that, and they win by 2-3 touchdowns, I don't know if it's much of a conversation. I think Lamar Jackson wins it hands down. But the fact that it's been multiple months now, and we've seen the Ravens not be quite as dominant as they were, especially in that game against the Buffalo Bills. And now as the season progresses and Josh Allen beat the Kansas City Chiefs and he beat the Detroit Lions, now his case is starting to build up, where Lamar Jackson's case hasn't necessarily slowed down, but he just hasn't had those moments to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. That was all the way back in week 1, and they just barely lost by one single toe from Isaiah Likely. Hasn't had the chance to beat the Detroit Lions. Instead, he goes out there and throws 5 touchdowns against the New York Giants. They have a dominating win, and his odds are negatively impacted because Josh Allen has a great game against the Lions. So I don't understand the animosity behind it. The whole Josh Allen's being, Joel Embiid at MVP, how the media is pushing it. I don't get it. I don't know how you can see this guy play and not think he is at worst the second best quarterback in the NFL this season. Him and Lamar have been playing at such a high level. The only thing, in my opinion, that makes it solidified that one gets it over the other is if they're the number one seed in the AFC. If Josh Allen, which is very possible because they already have the tiebreaker over KC, there's a chance Patrick Mahomes misses a week. If they're able to get the number one seed, they have the best record in the AFC, and the numbers are about as close as they are now, okay, Josh Allen, you got it. But if you're telling me the Buffalo Bills have one more win than the Baltimore Ravens, if it's that close, it's a toss-up. I don't think right now either player has that much of a lead, even though betting market-wise, Josh Allen's minus 700, minus 900, something crazy. The Ravens play the Steelers next week, the week after, I believe, and then they could be right in the hunt to win the division. And you're talking about the 2 seed and the 3 seed, or the 1 seed and the 2 seed, and it's neck and neck. So I would love to see Lamar get his third because I love Lamar Jackson, but Josh Allen's been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. So if he gets it this year, I wouldn't be upset.
I think this discussion can go a multitude of ways. For one, Lamar this year has been far and away the most productive quarterback. What he has been able to do is, in many different ways, kind of historic, looking back to his first MVP in 2019, and now the production is better than Josh Allen. But I think what gives Josh Allen the edge in this discussion, to me, a slight nod above Lamar at this current point in time, is the degree of difficulty. Coming into this year, many different people are ready to, and this is including me, I had the Jets making the playoffs, ready to prop up the Jets, ready to put the Dolphins in that playoff discussion. And right now, when you look at the AFC East, it is not even close who is in the lead. It is the Bills at the very top, second place the Dolphins at 6-8. And then you look at Josh Allen's individual play. Yesterday, his leading receiver is Ty Johnson. And after trading Stephon Diggs, many people asked, are the Bills going to take a step back? Are they going to be the same level in offense? Well, right now, they're averaging more points a game than this Ravens team. The Ravens are first in yards per game, and I think that's a credit to the supporting cast Lamar has. One of the top 2 running backs in football, Derrick Henry, who is an Offensive Player of the Year candidate for sure. You have one of, if not the very best tight end room, from Mark Andrews to Charlie Kolar and Isaiah Likely, and the wide receiver play. And I think when you compare the situation that Lamar is in to Josh Allen, you give Josh Allen the credit because of the fact the degree of difficulty and what he's been able to maximize is a testament to what he's able to do on third down, in the red zone, and these key situations and these big moments against a team like the Lions yesterday. He showed it. You do make a good point. I think if that Ravens-Bills game was week 16 or week 17, it would have been a lot like last year when Brock Purdy was an MVP favorite, and then he got swallowed by the Ravens, and immediately Lamar became the MVP favorite. I know I used a big boy word there, but at the end of the day, I think
that's a way
Lamar
to put it.
Has to be so much more productive than Josh to win the MVP because of the fact voter fatigue is a real thing. And at some point, something has to give. Josh Allen's third year in the NFL had a monstrous season, and then Aaron Rodgers had an even better campaign. So to me, I think everything's pointed at Josh getting that first MVP, whereas with Lamar, after winning it last year, where the numbers were not quite as impressive as this year, he's going to have to go above and beyond to really get that third MVP. And it's the same thing you see in other sports, Nikola Jokic. I don't really factor in voter fatigue, but the voters certainly will in this discussion. I think that does help Josh Allen's case.
But that's the thing. I don't think that voters should factor in who won in previous years to determine who's going to win in the current year. I don't think Lamar Jackson is currently the MVP. I think it is Josh Allen. But I don't think that Lamar Jackson has been by far and away more productive than Josh Allen. When you look at total numbers, and I feel like that encapsulates these quarterbacks better because they both pass and rush the football a ton. Lamar Jackson has more total yards. They both have the same amount of touchdowns at 37. Total turnovers, Lamar Jackson has 7 because he's fumbled 4 times. Josh Allen has 5 total turnovers. Passer rating goes to Lamar Jackson.
He hasn't fumbled?
Josh Allen, no, he's not.
Wow.
He's not fumbled this year.
No fumbles.
Fumbles lost? None. Fumbles lost because those are 2 different stats.
Right. Little luck there.
Yeah, you could fumble, but you don't have no fumbles lost.
That's what I'm like, what?
Yeah,
Okay,
you could
I'm
fact
fine.
check me on ESPN, John. Maybe it's 0 or 1. It's one of those. And although Lamar Jackson has better passer rating, Josh Allen is better in QBR, which I think is a better stat than passer rating. He's better in EPA per play. The Bills score more points, and they have a better offense in terms of EPA per play. So he has similar stats. He's leading a better offense, and the Bills have 2 more wins. I do think that the Ravens, for the most part, have more signature wins under their belt. Really, the only teams that Josh Allen has beaten that's over 500 have been the Chiefs, the Lions, and outside of that, it kind of gets dim, you know, because he lost to the Texans, he lost to the Ravens. He beat the Seahawks too. I think those are the 3 wins he has over 500, where Lamar Jackson has much more. So I think he does have more signature wins, but they have come early in the season. And his last signature game was against the Steelers, and they lost, and he didn't play particularly well. So that's what allowed Josh Allen to take the lead in this MVP race. But I do think that Josh Allen is playing just as good as him, and they're winning, and he's leading a better offense. And last year, it's kind of pissing me off that people are just acting like Allen wasn't in the MVP conversation.
Agreed.
Because last year he led the league in total yards, in total touchdowns. He had those interception numbers and the total turnover numbers that were crazy. It was 22 total turnovers. But here's the thing. Last year, according to PFF, Josh Allen had a turnover-worthy play percentage of 3%. This year, it's 2.7%, which means that last year, he was pretty safe with the ball. He just got some unlucky breaks, and this year, he's getting some luckier breaks. But context is never taken into these type of discussions. But I do think that Josh Allen winning MVP would kind of balance things out a little bit because he does deserve one. And I think when we are in an era with all these great quarterbacks, with Mahomes, with Lamar, with Josh Allen, with even Joe Burrow, it would be nice for one of them to win MVP each. And Joe Burrow seems like the odd man out right now.
Listen, you could say voters shouldn't think of who won in the past, but in the same breath, you can't be like, well, it would be nice if Josh Allen got one. You know,
you get an MVP.
It's got to be very black and white.
But Allen's is deserved if he wins
absolutely.
this year.
I'm not saying it's not deserved.
Yeah. So, John, did you check that?
Yeah, Allen, this is per stat moose. I don't know if this is 100% accurate. Allen has 2 and Lamar has 5.
Fumbles lost or is fumbles?
Fumbles lost. And then Football Reference will give an entirely different thing because they can include fumble recoveries for a teammate if he didn't fumble. And that can make up, let's say Allen has 5 fumbles and he lost all 5, but he recovered 3 of his teammates. It'll give you the impression that
that's
2
so
fumbles lost.
That is
I think.
so dumb.
I'm like 90% sure. I mean,
Okay, let me look at
could be off.
ESPN. So ESPN right now, they credit it's 0 fumbles lost. He has 1. Josh Allen has 1 fumble on the season, 0 lost.
And you take into
I'm seeing
account
Josh Allen with 5 fumbles
on ESPN
on Pro Football Reference.
Okay, I'm on ESPN. I'm using that. I don't know what's a better source.
It would be
these
nice
stats
if
a
there
little
was
bit
just like
different.
clear, concise stat about that.
That's literally every website now. They have like different numbers.
regardless of how you shake it, Joel, I understand your sentiment, and I think everybody here is making great points. I texted you guys yesterday. There's 2 guys that need to be in the conversation, but that's it. I'm not hearing anybody else. It's Josh Allen. It's Lamar Jackson. Now, if you go by the raw stats, of course, Lamar Jackson, to me, has had the better raw numbers. That's just obvious. But then I'm watching Lamar Jackson, and to me, this is the best Lamar Jackson I've ever seen.
Agreed.
And last year, I felt the same way about it. I'm like, wow, he's actually taken such a huge step as a passer. And then this year, he's found a way to be even better than that. Of course, it helps when you have one of the best running backs in the history of this game in Derrick Henry. But over these last few weeks, Derrick Henry has not been that same dominant player that we saw early in the season. And now we've seen Lamar Jackson be the main guy, the focal point. And of course, it is the Giants. We're not taking it too serious. But against the Giants, that was a flawless performance. His arm is incredible, and the strides that he's taken as a passer really impressed me because, you know me, I've been vocal about it. I didn't think Lamar Jackson could ever reach this height of being this elite of a passer. And then this year, you look at what he's been able to do, and I understand we acknowledge Zay Flowers. We understand that he's a really great talent. And I've been vocal about Rashad Bateman, but it looked like Rashad Bateman was in the dumps. It looked like Rashad Bateman's career was about to be where we had any idea of him being a solid player in this league. That was starting to die. But then this season, Lamar Jackson and him really have found a great connection, and he's starting to get it going. And this is where Mark Andrews had his ups, has his down. Isaiah Likely, you don't know which week is going to be his week. The offensive line playing a lot better than where it started, of course, but you compare that to what Josh Allen has. Josh Allen has one of the best lines. But I agree with you. Situation-wise, when it comes to skill positions, I love James Cook. I think that he's an amazing player.
He wasn't healthy for a month with his foot.
And you look at it, James Cook, he's not even seeing 50% of snaps. They just go through that cycle of James Cook. You have Ty Johnson and Ray Davis, who really is a really good running back. I think Ray Davis could be a starter in a couple of teams as well. But when it comes to the MVP conversation, I look at last season, and I thought Josh Allen would have gotten a little bit more attention for the MVP just for how great he was, what he was able to do, ultimately win his division as well. But you look at the year before that, Lamar Jackson gets injured, if I'm not mistaken, and the Ravens are not the division winner. If I'm wrong, you let me know. But I'm pretty sure.
What are you thinking of 2021?
Correct.
Where they went 8-9.
Yeah, 2022.
No, 2022. He was injured. Correct.
Yeah, they made the playoffs, but they lost.
Thank you very much. And they lost to round 1 to the Bengals. That's when Tyler Huntley almost pulled off a great comeback, and then they had exactly. So I'm glad my mind's in the right spot. So Lamar Jackson gets injured. They were 8-3 at the time that he got hurt, and then they ended up falling off, of course, because Lamar Jackson got injured. He comes back. They win the division. They're also the number 1 seed, and he obviously played his best brand of football at the quarterback position. To me, it was MVP worthy. I thought Josh Allen could have gotten a little bit more love for it, but understood why he wanted, especially taking narrative into account. If you want to go by voter fatigue, and because Lamar Jackson hasn't been the same level of player in the playoffs, we see it in the NBA a lot. I'm not a huge advocate of that because this is a regular season award. And this regular season, I've seen Lamar Jackson be the best quarterback in my opinion. So I would favor Lamar Jackson. But if Josh Allen wins the MVP, if you're upset at that, it's ridiculous. If you're one of those guys that think, oh, Josh Allen, he's clear-cut the MVP, I think you're mistaken because Lamar Jackson has been just as good, or in my opinion, a little bit better.
On PFF, Lamar Jackson this year is their number 1 graded quarterback in the league. So I think that they do a better job at contextualizing stuff than just the raw numbers. And, you look at the film and it shows, he's been the best quarterback in the league this year.
Better completion percentage. Yeah. Also, when it comes to rush attempts, Lamar Jackson's likely to fumble because he has so many attempts. But considering the fact of, regardless, 5-0, Josh Allen is one of the best rushing quarterbacks I've ever seen in my life. And I know it's 30 or around 30 more attempts that Lamar Jackson does have. And Lamar, of course, is the more efficient runner. Yeah. He is the best runner we've ever seen at the quarterback position. But what Josh is able to do is Big Ben at a whole other level.
Yeah, I agree.
If Big Ben were athletic like Josh Allen, that's who he'd be.
Big Ben was athletic, and then he had the motorcycle accident. I think that started to torpedo his...
Not like Josh.
But not Josh.
Was it
not to that extent?
He really was.
He was a good athlete.
He was a really good...
He was, yeah.
He was a good... But Josh is legitimately...
maybe slightly better than Burrow or Dak. I think
I think that's
when we look at the quarterback position, athlete-wise, I think Lamar Jackson is the peak of quarterbacks, athletically. That is
physically,
Josh and then Josh Allen might be number 2, truthfully.
Mm-hmm. I do want to say something that's kind of a paradox because it is a regular season award, yes. But I think we see this in other sports as well, where the postseason does matter because it confirms whether or not that player was worthy at times.
Respect.
And if you are a player who has an amazing regular season and then you kind of drop off in the playoffs or you struggle, which we saw last year versus the Chiefs, we've seen that moments with Lamar Jackson. Naturally, every time we have an MVP, we're going to look back with hindsight bias. And the playoffs confirm whether or not that player was worthy. And Josh Allen, for years on end, has elevated his play in the playoffs and done the absolute most to support his team. But routinely, Sean McDermott's poor clock management, which we saw 2 weeks ago, as well as his defense really struggling, has been what's held back the Bills. On the Ravens front, this year their defense has fallen off, but it's been Lamar in the passing game, which has failed them versus the Chiefs when Steve Spagnuolo stacks the box and says, beat us to the air, and they fail to. So when we look at the playoffs, yeah, it's a regular season award, but I think at some point, you do have to acknowledge Lamar has not established himself in the playoffs. Josh Allen has. And I think that's part of why he's also deserving.
Like last year, the Ravens and Lamar Jackson, he won it because he was great, but also because of the team record. There was a reason why Brock Purdy was in a discussion with CMC. CMC was really the only MVP candidate on that team.
He was moving me.
But because they were winning, Brock Purdy was the favorite.
Brandon
And it took a disaster class from Purdy to really take himself out of the race completely. But that's an issue I have because Josh Allen didn't get the MVP recognition last year because the Bills were always at an uphill battle. They were climbing. They lose to the Broncos on Monday Night Football. People are thinking they're going to miss the playoffs.
The Giants
so when they barely make the playoffs.
They almost lost to the Giants. Almost
lost to another shitty team.
They barely win the division.
Yep.
You're not giving Josh Allen the same respect as if he went maybe 12-5. Because last year, according to PFF, Josh Allen was the number 1 graded quarterback in their system. This year, it's been Lamar Jackson. So I think they have done a pretty accurate job at depicting, who's top of the top. Josh Allen this year is number 4. So, his rushing is really taking him up a notch because he's had some stinkers like the game against the Texans. But I do think Lamar's had more signature wins, just wins against 500 teams. The Ravens have won against the Bills. Not the Bengals twice. I just put them as a signature win because it's a division rivalry.
They were great games.
Yeah, they were. Bills, Commanders, Buccaneers, Broncos, Chargers. For Allen, the teams that he's beaten over 500 have been the Cardinals, the Seahawks, the Chiefs, the Niners, and the Lions. So it's about similar. I think, Lamar, maybe defenses, degree of difficulty, Broncos, Chargers defense are pretty good.
And no, they ran through us.
Yeah. So I would say, it's pretty even, but I do think the MVP should go to Josh Allen just to restore some balance in the awards a little bit.
Lamar still has a chance.
Why is that your stance?
Because I want people to win.
Why?
I want people to win.
He wants everyone to eat.
I
actually respect that.
We know
quite
why.
a bit.
Lamar Jackson has already won 2 MVPs.
Why.
I see you're picking up.
You know
I'm
why.
picking up with
But Lamar
Why?
Jackson, these next 2 weeks, they have Pittsburgh Saturday game,
Huge.
so
Oh, that's an L.
primetime game. That's a huge game.
That's an L.
And then they have the Texans on Christmas. So
Now
if he
it's
goes
on
out
TJ
there
too.
and he dominates the next 2 weeks, I think they have Cleveland week 18. So who knows standings wise if he'll end up playing. But those 2 games are going to be very important because these next 3 games for the Bills, they have New England twice and the Jets. So Josh Allen doesn't really have, outside of like a 6 touchdown game, which he could very easily do against any of these next 2 opponents. He could very easily do. But Lamar Jackson these next 2 weeks has the opportunity, maybe not as much as the Texans because we understand they're not as, great of a team as the Detroit Lions or the Chiefs that Josh Allen has beaten recently. But being on Christmas, being on prime time, you get a signature win there. It doesn't really matter who the team is, as long as it's not a god-awful team. That's going to move people. But most importantly, Saturday against the Pittsburgh Steelers. If he goes out there and he does the same thing he did a month ago, 3 weeks ago, I think he's cooked.
Agreed.
But if he goes out there and he, kind of defeats these demons
Has a
that he's
Jalen
had,
Hurts-esque type game.
has a Jalen Hurts-esque game, MVP-like game, it could be a whole new conversation.
Man, the odds are minus 700. Allen's winning MVP.
Which is
look at the record.
Necking him crazy.
It is necking
Look
him.
at the record.
It's necking
But I
him.
also think the odds take into account projection and future.
Yeah,
you
we're
look
playing
at
New England
Mike
and the Jets.
Tomlin
Yes.
rolls into town. What happens?
You look at those teams that Allen's playing. I mean,
Well, now film's out. Jalen Hurts just went out there and dotted you all up.
Okay, well, they have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert. And
The Ravens have Lamar Jackson.
We were missing.
Dallas Goedert didn't play in this game. We got him.
Good point. There's someone who I'm thinking of. Maybe it was
Alcantara, something like that.
might have been,
Alcantara.
but he looked like Goddard. Honestly,
Okay, he's spitting. He's
Yeah,
right.
no, he looks just like
that's why in my mind.
like
I'm writing
87
down the
white.
notes.
he's a little thicker.
Yeah. Okay.
Yo, and Kenny Gainwell hit that crazy spin, too.
Yeah, that was nuts.
that was filthy. But in that matchup, the Steelers are missing 3 defensive players and 2 of
And
their
Lane
corners.
Johnson was holding the fuck out of TJ Watt almost every single play.
Lane Johnson's he's a Hall of Fame right tackle, and that's probably the worst game he's played the last couple of years versus TJ. I mean, he almost had 2 strip sacks.
And
if
TJ
Jalen
had
Hurts didn't have
apparently a 0% win rate
Which
per
is insane,
ESPN.
which is super mega cap. Watch the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe
You're
they,
right, though. Goddard
charted
was
it
out.
differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should have known that.
Yeah, they just smoked you all around.
Okay, let's not do that.
No, they dog walked you.
Let's not do that. It was a
wasn't-
one-score game until Najee fumbles as we're marching to Philly territory. If he doesn't fumble, we have a chance to tie the game. Then they move down the field to 10 to 14 points.
If he doesn't
winning
fumble, it's
right
probably
there.
a punt.
And then
or
the
a field goal
DK
kick.
best defense in the league had a 21-play drive to end the game.
And you guys got 2 turnovers on the Eagles, right? Like both had opportunities.
We just didn't capitalize.
Your offense just
but
stinks.
It was closer in the score projected. It's the fourth
being
quarter.
rude.
The fourth quarter.
They also had an 11-minute drive at the end where you could not stop them.
It was 21 plays.
Did TJ Watt play on that
He did.
shot?
He definitely left
That
the game
affected
at that
it.
point.
Yeah,
He
it
did.
did.
Well,
No,
we still got
that
Nick
didn't
Herbert
count.
going into it.
I mean, you have pass rushers galore. Credit to TJ. Don't get me
we're
wrong.
missing 4 starters at that point, bro.
Okay. My bad. You had Highsmith out there.
AJ
You
got
had
hurt in
Herbert
that
out
drive.
there.
Who'd you pick to win that game?
Come on, you know who I picked? The Eagles.
Okay.
I know when the Steelers are going to lose. I knew it versus Indianapolis. I had that feeling versus Dallas. Although I picked the Steelers in both those games.
What about Saturday? You're going to sweep Baltimore?
Come on.
You're sweeping Baltimore?
I don't give a shit what you think. We're going to win. That's all that matters. Listen, they sat George Pickens for a reason. I think if he's not 100%, you rest him for this game as well.
I don't know if he's going to be.
I don't think he will. If it actually is grade 2 hamstring like they suggested, I do not care. We can
be super careful.
Listen, we can lose the division. I'd rather have a healthy George Pickens versus home field advantage and George Pickens in the sidelines because he's not healthy.
Because you could very easily play the Ravens still in the first round,
or the Texans
in Baltimore, or the Texans.
I do not want to go into the playoffs without George Pickens because Arthur Smith had one drive, the 6th drive, where they had the flea flicker and the Justin Fields run. The rest of that game, he did not know how to utilize Mike Williams. He was off the field in third down.
Brother.
Calvin Austin, Pat Freiermuth.
His
usage. Listen, he had 0 receptions for Jalen Warren, who's like our second best receiver.
He didn't get Roman Wilson involved.
He's on IR. The utilization.
Joel, come on.
The utilization of the weapons was really bad without Pickens. I don't want to see that in the playoffs. I might rip my hair out in the playoffs.
Well, John,
if that's how you
break it down. How would you scheme up Mike Williams, Calvin Austin?
I think it's really easy. You stop running the ball every single first and second down. The first 2 drives of the game, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7. Next drive, we get it on the 5-yard line of Philadelphia. We settle for a field goal on their own 20 because every single first and second down, I get he's trying to establish the run, but at some point to add a little bit more variety. Why does Pat Freiermuth not have a game this year with over 6 catches? I think it's 6 is his highest. He is one of the better tight ends in the league. I don't think his usage is all the way there. It's third down.
Russell Wilson?
It's third down. Obvious passing situation. Mike Williams is not in the game. I don't understand why.
He doesn't play a lot.
I don't understand. He only has 5 targets this year, and I think the one target he didn't have was the Hail Mary a couple of weeks ago. So it makes no sense.
You're going to learn Russell Wilson very soon.
What?
You're going to learn Russell Wilson
Give me a fucking break.
He doesn't. Him and tight ends. His entire career.
Yeah, the Bengals game. How about that? We had like 10 completions over the middle of the field, 6 of
I'm not saying over the middle of the field. I'm talking mostly about seeing the tight end. They'll have an occasional game. Do you want to know what low-key fucked up the dynasty for the Seahawks?
Give me a second.
Trading Max Unger for Jimmy Graham.
Yeah,
because Jimmy Graham and Russell Wilson never really had a great connection.
Will Dissly had a run before he got hurt in 2019.
Okay,
there have been different tight ends who have produced.
I mean, Russ hasn't really had.
It comes down to the consistent stagnation.
Played for like a decade after that.
I don't know how.
You don't have the receivers outside of Pickens. No, you don't.
No, outside of Pickens,
Calvin Austin.
Hey,
let me speak. John. Calvin Austin's a good 3. He's a capable 3.
You have to mention
he's a
Van
good
Jefferson.
4. Van Jefferson is dog shit.
Calvin
he should
Austin's
not
a
be on
4.
the field.
What about Scotty Miller?
I don't even want to. He's been fine as wide receiver 4, but I think between
Ben Skoranek,
he is an awesome special teamer.
Great all-time special teamer.
We have one of the best receiving backs in football,
Jalen
Jalen
propping
Warren.
up the Broncos receivers.
You're losing with the Calvin Austin
You don't watch Jalen Warren. That's what I'm noticing.
He's a running back.
Give me a fucking break.
I'm talking about the receivers.
Should we put Jalen Warren out wide?
You're also going to learn Russell Wilson, buddy. He doesn't see a check
Hall
down.
of Fame quarterback, 9-time Pro Bowl.
Wait, Russ doesn't see a check down?
The running back?
That's bullshit.
He's checked down.
Yeah, he does.
I feel like he's
running backs?
That's BS. Come on.
Yeah, no, he's a check
Running
down.
backs?
Yeah, he is a check down guy.
Listen,
running
That's a
backs?
good check down.
That's what he did all last season. He either threw it deep or checked it down.
Fucking
Jalen Warren had
Samaje Perine was going crazy.
Come on.
Am I on crack? I might be.
Yeah, you
Perine
are.
had a great year
No,
last year.
Perine was doing that shit with the Bengals.
Oh, am I Tariqan?
Listen, Jalen Warren's one of the best receiving backs in football. Pat Freiermuth is one of the better tight ends. You can put him in the top 10. Pickens is out. Yeah, we have arguably the worst weapons in football.
Yeah, 50 catches last year for y'all.
When he's in the game, the only thing the Steelers are
that's a
missing is a
lot.
wide receiver too. They have a 3. They have a good tight end. They have good running backs. It's just that wide receiver 2 spot with Van Jefferson. I think all of his reps should go to Mike Williams and or Calvin Austin if he's not in the game. And then one of Scotty Miller's a better player than him. I just don't think he does anything well.
I think what this conversation
calories.
tells me is you need to get at least 2 receivers in free agency in the draft next year.
We drafted Roman Wilson to be that
played.
slot.
Has he played? I don't know.
He's been active in 1 game.
Okay.
For the Raiders,
so that's a potential wide receiver 2 in the slot, and then you get maybe 1 receiver
to bank on Roman Wilson. Maybe he's gonna be good. I don't know. Maybe he's gonna be good.
Veteran, kind of to give him competition in camp, but I don't think you need to because Pickens gets his extension.
Pickens is locked. Absolutely,
those 2 are going to be locked. It's just that wide receiver 2 spot.
Okay, I agree. Wide receiver 2.
That's
Roman Wilson can compete for the 3.
Calvin Austin's a good 3.
Listen, I think the summary here, John, is that
Calvin Austin's a fine 3. I think
more of a 4.
He's a good 4. He's a really good 4. Come on,
John, your receivers are fucking ass. They're ass, except for George Pickens.
2 fucking Will Jordan Humphrey?
Am I here gassing the Broncos?
Velez.
you haven't watched the
Velez been
Broncos
solid.
play,
Velez a
man.
dog.
Am I here talking about the Broncos receivers
They're
being
using
this
Marvin
NWO?
Mims, Troy Franklin, Velez playing. Come on, man.
Talk.
He's locked
in.
Lil Jordan Humphrey.
Bunch of threes in the
He's
Steelers.
hurt.
I know he's been hurt. He's hurt. He's coming back soon.
Threes in the Steelers.
That being said, the Broncos receivers, I'm taking them for yours.
Yeah.
I'm taking them over yours.
I think George Pickens would probably just maybe take the.
But Cortland Sutton, he's not picking.
So good
But
this year.
Sutton's been
If you're saying just this year, I would take Broncos.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Because I like Franklin and Mims as the gadget guys.
Marvin
Calvin
Mims better than Calvin Austin?
Yeah. Mims in space is erratic.
You have to get him really wide open.
You have to get him so open.
Screens, shit around.
You have to get Calvin Austin film on your screen. That's the issue here. Because Calvin Austin can line up on the outside and win.
Mims is just some.
I think the summary here is that you need George Pickens back.
That's bad.
Yeah,
that's really the summary.
Like if we lost Cortland Sutton,
cooked.
Our season's over. It's over.
The passing game.
I agree with you guys, but I think with Pickens in the lineup, the weapons are fine.
Yeah, with him in the lineup.
Yeah.
If you use Jalen Warren.
The original point was you got to be safe with Pickens. Grade 2 hamstring. Yep. Those could flare up again. It happens. He's done for the year, And
that's 4 to 8 weeks, and it's only been 2 weeks. Yeah.
So speaking about injuries, the Lions had their best team in history this year.
By far.
12-2 with multiple players on IR. That's undermining it. I mean, I think right now they have 27 players on IR.
Let me see if I can do it
It's
off
something
the
as
dome.
crazy as that.
Aiden Hutchinson, Aleem McNeil. Now you got Monty on there. Anzalone, Malcolm Rodriguez, Carlton Davis. Am I missing anyone on the defensive side? Bro, and those are all, near all, stars to superstars. Yeah. I know Malcolm and Anzalone aren't star, but for the Lions, they are stars. Malcolm and what he's brought to them as a linebacker, Anzalone as well. And then, of course, we're talking about Aleem McNeil, who just got a contract, Aiden Hutchinson, who one of your best calls of the preseason, calling him your DPOY candidate. He was on his way there. He was on his way there. That was locked and loaded.
He was going to breeze by and
10,000
easily.
Right
easily. It's the Lions against the Bills, really. This is where everything just came falling down. Because McNeil tears his ACL.
Terrible.
Now we're worried about him next season. When is he going to return next season? Carlton Davis breaks his jaw. He's not going to play for the year.
Injury.
David Montgomery, MCL injury. He's not going to play for the year. Khalil Dorsey, their corner, also gets hurt.
Yep.
And now we're talking about a Lions team that, to begin the season, the Lions had Aleem McNeil, DJ Reader, Aiden Hutchinson. They eventually trade for Zadarius Smith. You have Carl Davis with Terrion Arnold. And now you don't have Carl Davis. You don't have Aleem McNeil. You don't have Aiden Hutchinson. They've gotten gutted, I think, to the point now where back when Aiden Hutchinson got hurt, we're thinking about, did this kill their chances to win the Super Bowl? I think now after these injuries, it's completely wiped away. I think the saving grace for them is they have an explosive offense. And Jared Goff is having a career season. He already has 30 touchdowns. He had 5 touchdowns against the Bills. So that offense will keep them in games. And now Jahmyr Gibbs gets more touches by default because of the Montgomery injury. But their defense, how the hell is their defense going to stop anybody? Like this defense now, the secondary is vulnerable, the corner group specifically. You don't have that same interior presence. The edge rusher group can be inconsistent. Yeah. I mean, I think this has totally killed the Lions' chances to where the Eagles, we know, are more talented than them. But if the Packers meet them for the 3rd time, it's hard to beat a team 3 times in a season. I think the Packers now, just a healthier team. The Lions, it's unfortunate that the best team that they've had in history has went down like this. They didn't get a chance to prove themselves in a postseason.
And obviously it's a bummer that this happens. And of course you're going up against the league's best offense in the Buffalo Bills. So you don't get to see yourself against like a medium level opponent. No, you just get the best of the best and they put up 45 on you pretty easily. I'll say this, talking about the game, that decision to kick the onside kick with 12 minutes left, the thought process is this. Our defense is fucking horrendous right now. I don't trust our defense to get a stop whatsoever. One, to me, I don't love that as my head coach. I would love for them to put a little trust in them. Me personally, especially with 12 minutes left. If it was a little bit later, I can hear it.
It's a Nick Sirianni move. If he did that,
people would be on his neck. But here I am. I'm playing it even. I didn't love that decision by Dan Campbell whatsoever. Didn't matter, of course. You end up having a damn near touchdown return by Matt Collins. They get a touchdown the very next play. but you didn't get a medium level opponent. No, you got the best of the best. So I'm interested to see how they look against the Bears. I'm interested to see how they look a couple of weeks later versus the Vikings. If I'm not mistaken, that's how they end their season, week 18. Yeah. And do you have the Niners, which I think that is a pretty nice litmus test. The Bears and the Niners to see how our defense is going to stack up against a medium to, we respect the Niners offense to a certain degree, but I do believe that their chance at making a Super Bowl run is over. It sucks because this was an unbelievable team, a super fun team. And even still, their defense is torn to bits. They went out there and put up 40 points on the Bills defense too. Back-to-back weeks that the Bills have allowed 40 points to opposing teams. But regardless, we understand that the Rams are a great offense. And we know that the Lions are one of the best offenses in the league as well. I think their offense will keep them in any single game that they do play, except against the Philadelphia Eagles. I think the Eagles are just a different beast, and especially with this defense being as banged up as it is, I'm still going to take Philly over them. But this is really disheartening to see because, like you mentioned, Joel, this is the best team the Lions have had in their franchise's history, and it was one of the best teams in the NFL, if not the.
Yeah, it's an absolute bummer because all year long, they've kind of put it together defensively and continue to ward off one injury after another. But there is that point where the dam just breaks and there's nothing left to give, and the job that Aaron Glenn has done this year almost kind of falls to waste. And I think the toughest part, too, is that you obviously had the Vikings in that Week 18 matchup. They're one game behind right now in the NFC North. Right now, looks like the Eagles are going to be that 1 seed. And then the 2 or the 3 seed could be decided between that divisional matchup. And in the playoffs, you're going to have to go up against one of the Vikings or the Packers, that in-division rival who knows you very well and has a super prolific offense, whether it's Jordan Love in that run game heating up for Green Bay or the diversity that Vikings offense has in their coaching. So, every single year we see 1 or 2 contenders that falls out the mix purely because of injuries, and the Lions are that team this year. You can say the Niners, sure, but that's different. This Lion team, 11 straight wins, it was on track to go to the Super Bowl. So as a Lion fan, it's brutal. But I think next year look to regroup, and ideally there's some sort of strategy in place for these medical staffs to where you can keep these guys in the field. It is absolutely brutal, and hopefully next year they kind of have that luck because it should be bound to go their way next year.
You said 2-3. It's 2-5.
What?
What are you talking about?
If the Lions don't win the division, they're the 5th seed.
Yeah, because they go the wild card.
Under the assumption that they are winning their division and they win that Week 18 match.
Yeah, it's close. It's going to be close.
They can still be the 1 seed. As long as they win out, which obviously is going to be a task now that their defense is banged out, they'll still be the 1 seed even if they have the same record as the Eagles, because in conference, they'll have the better record, and that's the tiebreaker.
If the Vikings win today, they're 12-2. They have the same record, and then that tiebreaker could come down to week 18. Mm-hmm. And the Lions could fall out and not even have home field advantage. I mean, the NFC North is just pretty amazing this year.
The NFC as a whole, I mean, you've got 3 teams in the NFC North, 2 teams in the NFC East. You've got 2 teams in the NFC West.
Yeah. Rams right now in Seattle potentially.
So there's a lot of different teams in that wild card round.
Bucs coming off one of the most impressive wins of the week that I don't know if we have a topic, or I think we do have a topic for them. But the Lions, it's tough because obviously we know the history of the Lions, right? They haven't been a great organization. You get Dan Campbell and everything's been great. Last season, you really turned around. You go to the NFC Championship game, lose a heartbreaker. This year, you're rolling, and then at the very end, it feels like the wheels are falling off. So on one side, listen, you had all this bad shit happen to you, and you were still pretty close against the Bills, right? Like, I know it was a last-second touchdown, 12 seconds, so it was a one-possession game when it was really like a 14-point game. Regardless, you still went toe-to-toe for a majority of the game and kept up with them, one of, if not the best offense in football for the entire game. And like you mentioned, Joel, Jared Goff has been phenomenal. So even though all of the injuries that came down to it, you still have a really good chance to be the potentially number 1 seed, if not the number 1, 2 seed, host multiple playoff games. And in those games, you probably still will be favored, even with all the injuries that you do have. But with all of those injuries, it is hard to see this defense that even when Hutchinson went down, right, for the next 5, 6, 7 weeks, really up until this last week or two, was still one of the best defenses in football. I remember we were having these debates with the Eagles and the Lions.
You're a sick fuck.
What?
That was wet, too.
No, I knew it sounded like a little fucking bubble.
Did you see Dehls' eyes?
Yeah, I deservedly so.
Jesus Christ.
You're a sicko.
We were having these debates about the Eagles and the Lions defense because the Eagles defense was playing at an all-world level. And then you look at success rate and EP, and it's like, oh shit, Eagles are number 1, but the Lions are number 2, right? They're right there with them. And I think we've seen the last few weeks, they've done a good job of holding teams for a certain amount of time, right? Think of Thanksgiving against the Bears. First half, they basically shut them down. Second half, the Bears, credit to them, you make adjustments too. Second half, they came back, they made it a game. Against the Packers, the first half, they held them in check. The second half, the Packers made that a game. This game against the Buffalo Bills, they were able to score first, second, third, and fourth quarter, so I can't say much there. But the defense has definitely taken a bit of a step back than it did in that first month or so when Aiden Hutchinson first went down. Yep. But this offense is so good. It's so explosive. And even with Montgomery out, it definitely hurts the floor of this offense because having Gibbs and Montgomery just makes it so easy for the offense because you're constantly ahead of the sticks, right? You run the ball on first or second down, you're seeing third and shorts more often than not, and it makes life easy for Jared Goff. It makes life easy for Ben Johnson. So their offense is still good enough to beat Green Bay, to beat Minnesota. All of these teams, even Philly, even though it is a long shot, but the upside of doing it 3 times, of beating a Minnesota or Green Bay, beating a Philly, then going to the Super Bowl and beating a Buffalo Bills, to do that 3 times, or I guess 4 if you don't have the bye.
Yep.
That's where this really hurts because you need the consistency week after week after week, and to expect your offense to score 35 plus points in every single one of those outings, you're just bound to have one of those games where a couple things don't go your way. Gibbs fumbles, Jared Goff has 2 interceptions, and you end up scoring 24 points and losing.
No quarterback can win a Super Bowl that way. Even Patrick Mahomes had issues with that in the past until the Chiefs hired Spagnuolo. You're going to have some good quality defense in the playoffs.
I'll be honest, I watched the Chiefs win in 2022 with a pretty mediocre defensive performance.
Chris Jones, Steve Spagnuolo.
A pretty mediocre defensive performance.
I get you, but they still made time with plays. The Nick Bolton, that's the Eagles Super Bowl. The
Fair.
Nick Bolton touchdown.
That's the only blemish they have on that game, and
Chris
that's
Jones
fair.
had a sack that game too.
That was still a serviceable defense.
Yeah, I mean,
and I'm thinking of like
they got almost no
I'm
stops.
thinking of like 2018. Chiefs
What they have to do is be like what the
Facts.
Packers have been doing recently. It's like a ton of turnovers. You're getting interceptions and fumbles and sacks, but you're going to let up a lot of yards. If you can make those plays and get a couple turnovers, sure, you can do it, but it's hard to see them consistently be like an elite defense now.
Yeah, you know, if you have a good defensive coordinator, you could have a good scheme floor, but you need the talent to ultimately go out there and face off against these better teams, because when you're facing off against these better teams, they know what you're doing. They know what you're going to do schematically. So you need the players that are good to execute that at a higher level. And the Lions just have been decimated with injuries. Now, what's bad news for one team is good news for another team, because the Philadelphia Eagles right now are trailing number 1 seed. They are right there, close to getting it. And this win over the Steelers is one step closer in that direction. The Eagles beat the Steelers, a 10-win team. Jalen Hurts and his passing attack is back on track.
Thank God.
I mean, did people overreact over the Panthers?
Bottom fucking 10.
The Panthers'
I
bad
can't
passing
fucking
attack.
believe that we allowed that statement to be said on this show.
What was the statement?
Bottom 10?
He was playing like it.
I didn't say anything. I would have said bottom 15 though.
Bottom 10.
That's why. That's why I let
He was playing like
Robinson
it.
quarterback.
And it's the thing.
Definitely
When
strong,
you
but
when you
not top 10.
called on his number, although few and far between, because this season has been the Saquon Barkley show, you should know that you can trust Jalen Hurts to go and get the job done. The biggest answer to that is 2022. A couple of seasons ago, fair. But the whole thing was that the Chiefs game planned to stop the Eagles' run attack because it was by far the best in the league. And that's a fine game plan because that was their dominant aspect of their game. But what did Jalen Hurts do in that game? As a passer, he was near flawless. Over 300, has 4 total touchdowns. Was incredible. So a game versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, one of the best defenses in the game, they go and their game plan is, we're going to stop Saquon Barkley. Because if we can stop Saquon Barkley, we have a chance to win this game. Now, Saquon also was a little bit banged up in this game, and he was in and out, to be fair there. But even more impressive now, because our guy who has got us to the point where we're one of the best offenses in the league, we're one of the best teams in the league, we have an MVP candidate in Saquon Barkley, is banged up, not at 100%. Now it's back to me, the quarterback, to go ahead and show why I am still one of the best in the game. And to go and have that level performance against the Pittsburgh Steelers, 290, over 120 passer rating, 78% completion percentage. Jalen Hurts goes to the podium and says, y'all happy now? This is what y'all wanted? Because I know I have this capability within me. I just play within what the game plan is going to be and execute that at the highest level possible. Because if we're winning, it's not about me, it's about we. And when it needs to be about me, I can go and I can show you I'm still one of the best in the game.
I don't think that's an accurate depiction of how Jalen Hurts has been playing this year. Jalen Hurts had a great game against the Steelers, and it was great for the passing attack to bounce back. And I want to clean something up. the major problems with the passing attack are Kellen Moore.
Sure.
It's a bland, vanilla offense. It's static routes. I thought against the Steelers, he did a much better job at clearing out the field and letting his receivers work the middle of it, out into space, catching the ball and running with it. You had A.J. Brown with 100 yards, Devontae Smith with 100 yards. But this thing that, Jalen Hurts, he was just waiting for his number to be called upon. Yeah. That's why he didn't have these numbers. No, they were calling on his number, and he wasn't delivering.
Barely against
the Panthers, he had 108 passing yards. Cooper Rush just threw for 203 touchdowns in that game. And Rico Dowdle had more attempts than Saquon Barkley. And Rico Dowdle played well as well.
He did.
So the attempts were there for Jalen Hurts. It's just he was holding on to the ball. He wasn't letting go. He was bailing out of clean pockets. The route concepts also from Kellen Moore were very underwhelming. There was clear frustration. Yes, this is what we wanted to see. It wasn't an overreaction at all because A.J. Brown is in a podium talking about, we had to shut all the noise down. You created the noise.
Agreed.
He's the one that called out the passing attack in the first place.
Wholeheartedly.
And do I think that was a shot at Hurts? No, I thought that was a shot at the offensive coordinator. I thought that was a shot at Kellen Moore for getting him more involved early in the game. But against the Panthers, watching that film back, there were slants that were there this week that Hurts hit that he didn't hit last week. And that's what you want Hurts to do. Because if this passing attack, by the way, has been an average unit, it has been 15th in EPA per play before this Steelers game. Now it's probably jumped up maybe a spot or two higher because it was a great performance. This passing attack needs to be this good because when they take away Saquon Barkley, this is going to be the bread and butter of this team. This Eagles team has no weakness.
No.
It's the best team in the NFL.
Agreed.
If you can count on Jalen Hurts to play like a top 10 quarterback, this team's going to win the Super Bowl.
Agreed.
It's as simple as that. But he has to do it. And that's why when you throw for 108 yards against the Panthers, we all say, you're better than this. You, the talent on the team, is better than this. The Panthers are one of the worst defenses in football. Yeah. Everybody torches them. So when he doesn't have a good game, it becomes a big deal also because A.J. Brown said things to the media. Then Brandon Graham came out. So it became a much bigger deal than it had to be. But this is how the Eagles have to play. That doesn't mean go away from Saquon Barkley, but it means being more creative with your passing concepts. It means being able to trust Jalen Hurts in those moments. And this is one of those steps in the right direction. And that's what they need to do moving forward.
Absolutely. Jalen Hurts, listen.
You disappointed me, man.
Well, listen, Drew, I agree. Because when he said bottom 10, I was like, fuck, that's kind of crazy. And that was like, I probably would have said bottom 15, so I'm not gonna go crazy over
here. It was
here.
middle of the pack.
When I'm seeing the comments say I'm not disappointed at Joel, I'm disappointed at Dehls, that hits me because I believe that you were just like, I'm defeated here. I really can't say shit.
Well,
gotta go to bat for your boy.
The thing is, I could have been like, he's not been a bottom 10 quarterback. He's been like a bottom 14 quarterback. But I didn't know if that was worth the time and effort to really nitpick with him or Baker Mayfield. The
bottom line is that Hurts is playing average and he needs to play better. It's as simple as that.
And it's also the expectation for Jalen Hurts, right? 2 seasons ago, 2022, you had an MVP performance. You had one of the best games we had ever seen a quarterback in a loss in a Super Bowl have, or period, win or loss have. He was damn near perfect outside that one fumble. So once you have that performance, the expectation only gets higher and higher, right? You go into 2023, it's like all of a sudden you're not like a system quarterback. You're not this young quarterback. You're expected to be a top 7, top 8 quarterback. You're expected to be an MVP, a face of, because you're on the Philadelphia Eagles. Yes. You're on one of the best organizations in football. You're expected to be that level of good. So in 2023, when you start off 11-0 and then you fall off the face of the planet and you have one of the worst second half collapses we have seen in recent memory.
Agreed.
You get a bit of an asterisk, okay, was 2022 just everything going right with Shane Steichen and the offense and everything? So we're like, all right, we'll give you one more year. 2023, you get Saquon Barkley, you get a new play caller in Kellen Moore that, even though I like Kellen Moore, I know more than everybody else, we all thought was an upgrade over Brian Johnson.
Easy.
We're going to 2024 saying, Jalen Hurts, will he be 2022 good? Probably not, but we're expecting a bounce back from what we saw last season. And although the numbers, and specifically passer rate and EP and shit like that, might have been better than last year, specifically the second half of the year, I have not seen Jalen Hurts, and this is my argument, progress in the way I would expect Jalen Hurts to progress to. In 2022, when I see him go out there and have an MVP type season, I feel like this is the start. This is Jalen Hurts going from the 15th best quarterback to the 10th best quarterback. And while progression isn't always linear, it almost seemed like these last couple of seasons, it's progressively been going down. It hasn't been going up. That's been my bigger issue with Jalen Hurts, is that the numbers, what he does week to week, that's one thing. But the consistency, working on the things that he's bad at, that's my bigger issue with him, because I thought this game against Pittsburgh was one of the best games he's had of the season, right? Of course, the pass attempts were up there, so he was asked to do it. Yep. But I felt like he wasn't as hesitant as much. I felt like he was reading the field a lot quicker and not breaking the pocket, even though he was still doing it some, not breaking the pocket quite as much as he had in the past. Those are my two biggest issues with Jalen Hurts for me when it comes to reading the field quickly, because I think he can read the field. I think sometimes he just gets stuck on his first or second read too long, and then breaking the damn pocket too soon, especially when it's a clean pocket.
That might be his biggest flaw in my opinion.
Those are my two biggest gripes with Jalen Hurts. But even still, there's a world where the second half of the season, last quarter of the season, he could turn around. That we just showed against Pittsburgh. I understand the injuries, one of the best defenses in football, one of the best coached teams in football. He could turn around. He could have these type of games. If he does this in the playoffs and he's able to keep this sort of performance up, they're going to win the Super Bowl. I agree with you, Joel, because everything else is so damn good. Best defense in football, best running game in football, and one of, if not the best weapons group in football. Line. So they have everything there. It's just, like you mentioned, when his name is called on, in those big moments in the fourth quarter, 2-minute drive, I still trust Jalen Hurts because I've seen him do it in big moments. I've seen him do it against the Kansas City Chiefs. Just, you got to do it time again, and again, because you could rely on Saquon Barkley for a lot of the game. You could rely on Saquon Barkley for a lot of the season. No doubt. But in those biggest moments, he's going to have to make big boy throws. I think he could do it. This game was, I think, a huge step forward, because I don't think we overreacted to the Panthers game. I really don't think we did. That one game specifically was really ugly, but I feel like it kind of showed that this has kind of been going on for a lot of the season. Like, maybe raw numbers wise, like, yeah, he's not averaging 120 yards per game, whatever. But for a majority of the season, the passing attack's been kind of hit or miss. With injuries aside, even when everyone's healthy, it's been kind of hit or miss. So I feel like that Panthers game, nearly losing, right? Yeah. Nearly losing, going down to the absolute wire with, although they've been improving, one of the worst teams in football, that kind of opened everyone's eyes. Be like, all right, is there something really going on here? And I think there was. This is a great way to bounce back. Not prime time, but one of the biggest games of the week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think it was very needed, because if you go out there and if you win the game, if A.J. Brown has 5 targets and Jalen Hurts throws for 160 yards, you're still going to have these conversations.
Yeah, listen, this discussion is twofold. On one hand, the criticism was warranted for this passing game. And I think oftentimes Jalen Hurts maybe gets not a slight pass, but he's going to get defended because of the market he plays in. The quarterback wins.
He's sexy.
If you win, it doesn't matter. That's really what it comes down to.
That is more so than anything else, and I agree with that.
But even fantasy football, that can distort a player's image even when he's not playing as well, right? Jalen Hurts not playing up to his standard. He's still a quarterback throwing in fantasy. He's going to get defended. But yesterday was an example of one of those games where Lane Johnson's struggling, Saquon's out in the second quarter, and when the play calling is just good enough and you're involving your weapons and they're getting open, Jalen Hurts can play within the structure of the offense. I think the game that he had kind of was symbolic that there are those moments when maybe the play calling is there and it simplifies the game for him. He can play similar to that level he was at in 2022. 330 yards, handful of touchdowns, key third down conversions, 10 of 17 on third down. It's an example of what you should expect from Jalen Hurts. But this has to be consistent for the Eagles to go on a Super Bowl run this year. You can't have these on weeks and these off weeks. If you get this level of play from Jalen Hurts in the playoffs consistently, the Eagles will be right back in the Super Bowl this year. But I think there is that justified criticism based off of his individual performance where you do need the play calling to be really good. Yesterday, Kellen Moore had a good designed run. He was getting Jalen Hurts involved at the right times as a rusher. And again, I think the passing concepts in the red zone are better, and they're simple. And then A.J. Brown was doing A.J. Brown-like things on even Joey Porter, but then Dante Jackson. It's just attacking mismatches for this Philadelphia offense. But I do think at times you guys, especially you're overly defensive of Jalen Hurts when he is playing poorly. But a game like yesterday is an example where you have to give credit where it's due. Against that Steelers defense, he balled the hell out. And that's a unit which poses a lot of pressure. It can force quarterbacks to be uncomfortable, and it forces a ton of turnovers. Hurts had just one. That was a fantastic play. So hats off to him.
I like the post-game press conference. You mentioned it. I like that. Like, Jalen Hurts, this is who he's been for the most part. He's been a guy that's been very confident, right? Like, he's going to take shit from the media because, number one, you're in Philly. I mean, it's them in New York gets the most shit in terms of media coverage. But when those times come, I want him to be like that. Like, I want him to be like, this is the shit you want? Like, okay, I could still do this. He should still have that confidence being like, I'm the franchise quarterback. I got a record-breaking contract a couple of years ago. Like, this is who I am. I can do this. So I'm happy he went out there. And even though people are like, oh, it's corny, this and that, like, that's what I want to see from him. That's what I want to see from my quarterback.
I was about to say the same shit. Call it glazing. Call it whatever the fuck you want. But he has been accustomed to doubters. Even at the time from Alabama, you get benched for Tua Tagovailoa, a true freshman in the championship game. You go and you have to transfer to Oklahoma. Now you're a second-round pick. Now you're a backup coming into the league to Carson Wentz. You supersede Carson Wentz, and people are saying that that's a mistake because they believe in the talent that is Carson Wentz. Your first year in the league, you're not a great passer whatsoever. You're really a real, like, a one true threat, and that is with your legs. The year after that, you progress into one of the most efficient passers in the league. You lose the Super Bowl. You start 11-0. You have one of the worst collapses down the stretch in the second half. You lose in an upset fashion to the Buccaneers. You guys get embarrassed. Now Jalen Hurts isn't a top 10 quarterback. Now we're back to the way that things started. Now this season, where the Eagles have been one of the most impressive teams in the league, if you want to call me defensive, look at the teams that they've gone up against. Who has Jalen Hurts had to outwardly go ahead and say, all right, I need to play at this level? And where we can be looking at this Panthers game as a blessing in disguise is for all the points that you guys mentioned. They didn't need the passing attack in these previous games against these teams. But in the first close game that they've had in a decent amount of time versus the Panthers, where we felt as if, Jalen, you could have been a little bit better as a passer, now they're using this. Even though it resulted in a win, this game is going to be a blessing in disguise because now, moving forward, it kind of lit a fire under them to say, okay, you want us to show you that I can do it? You want us to show you that this passing attack can be great? Okay, now sit back and watch this.
I do think that it's been sluggish, and it only got magnified against the Panthers because they're the Panthers.
Of course.
If the Lions played them, I think they beat them by 50. I mean, that's a weak team. The Cowboys blew them out. And we think that they should be tanking. Like
Tampa just smoked the Chargers in Tampa division game. So I'll move on.
You look at the Eagles, the last couple of games, they played the Panthers before the Steelers game. Mm-hmm. They played the Ravens. It was a very sluggish offensive performance. And really the only thing that lit them up on offense was the rushing attack with Saquon Barkley when he broke off a couple runs.
Commanders.
And then the Rams game as well. The Rams game was a little bit sluggish as well. It was, it took time for them to get going. And it's just... for the most part, every game this year for the Eagles, in the first half, they have looked like one of the worst offenses in the NFL. Then they start to give Saquon the ball in the second half, and he breaks off a run that lights up the offense. Like the Saints game, when that was like a close affair, and then Saquon broke a run at midfield for a touchdown.
Saquon threw for 300 without AJ and Smitty.
On Jalen Hurts in that game.
Correct.
He did. One of the plays was like a crazy Dallas Goddard mesh,
Take that.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that the offense has been sluggish for a while now, and what Hurts has to do is he has to play on time because he's a quarterback that at times can not have the best anticipation. So when that happens, those windows close quickly. Versus the Panthers, when he was kept clean, his average time to throw was 2.88 seconds. You're almost at 3 seconds when you're kept clean. Versus the Steelers, it was 2.45. He's just making his decisions quicker. And that's what needs to happen. I don't think it's a case where, Hurts is just like flipped the switch. I think Hurts was just playing bad. And now if he starts playing well, this is a different Eagles team. Like what you said earlier, if Jalen Hurts plays like one of the 10 best quarterbacks undeniably in the NFL, I think the Eagles are going to cruise to a Super Bowl win. They're that talented this year.
They're amazing.
If he plays how he's been playing before the Steelers game, they could still win. It'll just be a little tougher to do it. That's just how good this Eagles team is. When we look along their roster, we know we trust the defense. We know we trust AJ and Smitty. We know we trust the offensive line. We know we trust Saquon Barkley. It's really Jalen Hurts. Okay, in those passing down situations, is he going to be able to elevate the offense and play closer to his 2022 level? That's what it is. But this Eagles team is too talented, and that's why there's a microscope on Hurts, because if this thing doesn't work, it's most likely going to be because the passing attack didn't play well. And that's a combination of maybe Hurts or Kellen Moore not doing his job. But that's how I feel about the Eagles offense. I think this was more so a wake-up call for Kellen Moore to just be more creative on that side. Just get his playmakers out in space. And he was trying to do that against the Panthers. But like I said, there's too much static in his concepts that sometimes I think it's a little too simple.
And to me, if your biggest question mark is their passing attack, oh my God, that is exciting to hear if you're an Eagles fan.
That's the best weakness out of all the contenders. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Are you kidding? Like, you named the Bills, the Chiefs, the Lions. Let's respect the Vikings and the Packers. You look at all those teams. I would much rather be in the Eagles position as opposed to the rest of those guys. And that's the truth.
Yeah, it's by far the most talented team in the NFL. It's by far the most talented team. I think they have maybe 12 Pro Bowl level players. Like 2 of them being rookies.
Would you rather have Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, and Devonta Smith, and if and when Dallas Goedert were to come back with that offensive line, or would you rather have the Chiefs defense right now? Or would you rather have the Bills? Or would you rather have the Bills defense right now? Yeah. Or would you rather have the inefficiency? Yeah, exactly. Would you rather have Sam Darnold? Would you rather have Detroit's injuries right now?
Sam Darnold balling, but like the Ravens defense versus the Eagles.
Or Minnesota's pass defense. Would I want the Packers pass defense? No, I don't. I'm going to take the passing attack of the Eagles every single time.
Now, moving on, defense is going to be a big topic.
Has to be.
The Broncos just beat the Colts off the back of their defense.
Love it.
In the second half, multiple drives that ended in an interception, a forced fumble return for a touchdown because it wasn't technically a pick six. They're calling it a forced fumble now.
I hate that, but whatever.
You had turnover on downs. You had multiple punts in that game. Bo Nix those 3 interceptions, and the Broncos still found a way to win. And we will talk about the Broncos, but I wouldn't feel right in myself if I didn't mention Jonathan Taylor's play. Because I really do think that one play led the spark to the Broncos coming back. It was about to be 20-7. Bo Nix wasn't playing well. That defense was going to be able to pin their ears back and just play soft zone coverage. The Colts this was their chance to make the playoffs. I mean, Anthony Richardson, his chance to lead the Colts to the playoffs in his rookie season. And Jonathan Taylor cost them the game. I really think it goes back to that one play. And I'm not trying to mitigate all the great things the Broncos did. But I just can't believe he dropped the ball before he got into the end zone.
So crazy,
it was really one of the stupidest plays I've ever seen. Like, I just don't know why you just don't hold on to the ball.
And also looking at it, it's so close.
So close.
If they would have called it a touchdown, I'd have said, okay, I get it. That's fine with me.
A lot closer than Corley's. A lot closer than Corley's.
Oh my God, that was like so close.
So close to the point that you thought the tip of the football crossed the plane. Yeah. Like, that's how close it was to where, like you said, if they just let it stand, you can't say nothing about it. You can't say it was a bad call.
It's not as if that play happened and we scored the very next drive. We didn't.
Yeah.
We punted the ball after that. Mm-hmm. They still had multiple chances, and our defense really hadn't stepped up in that first half. In the first few drives of the game, I had a genuine knot in my stomach.
They're running down the field.
Of course, as a fan, I got a chance at the playoffs. I got a little bit more anxiety on my side watching this game, but legitimately watching AR march down the field.
First drive especially, yeah.
Oh my God, that was a flawlessly executed drive by the Indianapolis Colts, and JT looks like prime JT against us. And I'll give you some credit, Dehls, because you were talking about how our rush defense hasn't looked as strong recently, and I kind of felt a certain type of way, but hey, in this game, you were pretty right about that. I give JT and AR some love there. But then, of course, you have Bo Nix not playing at 100%. He has that touchdown, a great pass to Adam Troutman. That was really exciting. I thought that was a great bounce back after having that early INT. And it kind of stung because the first few passing plays, on time, making some nice throws, and then you kind of just get off platform. You get a little erratic, and you throw it over the middle of the field for an unnecessary INT. That was a bummer. But the turnaround that the Broncos had as a whole, defense and offense included, because in that second half, we came to play. We were not fucking around. AR looked like the AR that we've seen for a majority of the season against us. Not in that first quarter like he had looked and the Colts had looked. A lot of love needs to be given to so many different people on this defense. First off, we have to give love to, of course, Nick Bonito, what he's been able to do. Second in sacks, another touchdown this season. I love the ESPN stat. It always moves me. the first player since 2014 DPOY, J.J. Watt, to have 10-plus sacks and 2 touchdowns. Love an ESPN stat like that, especially when you're putting in a name with J.J. Watt. But Nick Bonitto has been a game changer for us. We have so many game changers on that defensive line, and that's been the difference from us in years past to this year. Where last year we created a lot of turnovers, but this year we're getting a lot of turnovers, but we're also getting pressure on the quarterback. A lot of credit to Vance Joseph. But Nick Bonitto, Zach Allen, Jonathan Cooper, that trio right there moves the fuck out of me. They get me going every single week because of the pressure they can get on a quarterback. Nick Bonitto's reaping the benefits of it now because he's finishing plays. But like you've mentioned to me on multiple occasions, Zach Allen still leads the team in pressures. Him having this level of season this late into his career at the age of 27, where as our best players, he's our oldest player on our team. For him to have that level of impact this late into his career, it's exciting. And then, of course, the DPOY, either first or second right now. If you want to say your boy's the defensive player of the year, I'll shake your hand. TJ Watt is one of my favorite players in the league. His impact that he leaves on a game, even in this game versus Philadelphia, you felt it. But what he does week in, week out against the opposing team's best player, it's unbelievable. It's really ridiculous how high of a level Pat Surtain is playing at right now. Defensive player of the month last month. This whole season, he's allowed less than 200 yards. He's been a freak of nature. And why do you still throw in his vicinity? I couldn't tell you. 4 INTs on the year. A player of that caliber should have 0. You should never throw in his direction. There's so many great moments in this game where you have the second half start and Bo Nix throws that first INT, which I thought was his worst throw of the game. Just completely sails it over Cortland Sutton right into the defender's hand. Bad throw. Then has another interception. But the defense continuously makes play after play. And that's what I kind of banked on coming into this game, that our defense would stand out. That our defense would be the main reason we walk away. Because you and I have been talking about it. This Colts defense has played significantly better significantly better from where it started early on in the season. Got a little bit healthy, and we're starting to see it play a significant amount better. But Bo Nix, too, settled down. He threw those 2 INTs. After that, we got the ball back. After the nice forced fumble by PJ Locke, he goes and has that play going to the opposite side, sees Kroll, gets into the end zone. Nice yak play there. But then, of course, you have multiple throws where our receivers are selling him too. Cortland Sutton, who's been one of our best players this year, he has 2 drops. One that could have been a touchdown, the next one on 3rd down. You have Velez drop a ball on 3rd down. Troy Franklin, who you can't trust to catch a cold right now. There's just so many times where we see him also get sold by his receivers. Then on top of it, he was playing pretty poorly himself. It just was a bad offensive performance. And then I haven't even talked about our run game, which was non-existent.
It's been bad also.
For the defense to step up in that fashion, but then for Bo Nix to also find the confidence again after throwing 3 INTs and 2 second-half INTs, that really is what impressed me the most. There's a lot of resilience with our team, from the offense to the defense. Defense started shitty, we locked in. Offense started shitty, really was shitty for a majority of this game, but they were able to still figure it out, and we're still able to win by double digits. This Broncos team's legit. It's a fun team, and even when it doesn't look the best, they still find ways to win. That's the difference between this Broncos team and a lot of the years past.
This was the most resilient win of the season. Bo Nix settled down. The field position granted to him.
Beautiful.
I mean, the field position he was basically at midfield. He only had to make a couple throws until the end zone.
That Sutton route, bro, he kills that corner. Gets wide open for the tutty.
Yeah, they settled down once the defense started to do their thing. Really, this is a defense-first team. That's what
for sure
has gotten them this far. They're the first-ranked defense in terms of points allowed. I do think Pat Surtain's DPOY, and what makes him such a special player is kind of like how James Harden said he's not in a system. He is a system. That's what Surtain is. When you have a player as special as Pat Surtain, who you can put on any wide receiver and you don't have to worry about that wide receiver for the entirety of the game, it changes how you can play defense. You can stack the box more. You can send more pressure at the quarterback. You can trust them on islands. And that's something that I wish the Jets would do more with Sauce Gardner, because I do think he's a special type of talent, but they pigeonhole him into playing just strictly zone defense. And we saw with the Broncos last year when they did that, Vance Joseph and the Broncos defense got off to a pretty tough start, but then they started to change their identity. But that identity change has really come this offseason with them really making a point of emphasis to play a physical brand of football. And even with Riley Moss being out, this defense was able to make plays. You talk about Zach Allen, Jonathan Cooper, and Nick Benito. They're playing at an insane level. John Franklin Myers also, Malcolm Roach as well. They have 5 to 6 defensive linemen that are able to bother the quarterback.
A rookie balled out too. Chris Abrams-Drain, bro, he played a hell of a game this past week.
They have multiple players they're able to rely on. In terms of the DPOY conversation, right now it's very tough. I try to categorize this into 3 different position groups. The only linebacker that I think is worthy of it is Zach Bond this year.
Okay, Zach,
Fred Warner, the Niners are losing. I can hear the conversation. When I was looking at the just insane defensive players this season, a lot of them are playing for losing teams. Myles Garrett leads the NFL in pressures with 70, but he's not going to be in this conversation because the Browns don't have a good defense and they're not relevant this year. Micah Parsons, another guy. The Cowboys are not relevant. The 49ers, Nick Bosa, not relevant. Dexter Lawrence with the Lions, with the Giants, not really relevant right now. So a lot of the top end defensive talent really have gotten removed from this conversation because of team record. So when I look at the teams that have a great record and great defenses, I really look at the defensive line. You have TJ Watt. You have Jonathan Grenard. You have Danielle Hunter. You have Will Anderson. You have Nick Benito. You have Chris Jones, who I still think deserves consideration in this conversation. And when I look down a list, there's only one defensive back that is seriously in a conversation. That's Pat Surtain. And amongst all defensive linemen, it's close. You can pick and choose who you want. But I think the Broncos having the number 1 ranked defense and that being led by a corner and what he's been able to do with the interceptions that he has this year and how they're able to play defense differently than everybody else because they have him, I think he is a defense player of the year. He's changed his defense the most than any other player. Like TJ Watt is having a tremendous season. When Alex Highsmith is healthy and Nick Herbig, they're also producing at an elite level. I mean, they got multiple. Cameron Hayward also is like a DPOY level candidate,
bro. Yeah. What is he on?
Yeah, so the Steelers really
get him a Super Bowl's Hall of Famer.
It's TJ Watt and Cam Hayward. They're both playing at a DPOY level. So Pat Surtain has really stuck out to me with the Broncos this year.
Absolutely, I think one of the coolest stats is when you look at the state of this AFC. There's only 2 teams that are top 10 offenses and top 10 defenses in points per game. Steelers and the Broncos. And I think that highlights for Denver just how special their defense has been. Yeah, but their offense has maximized some of their parts. And I think one of the more underrated factors of this team is the coaching and the way in which they've been able to really maximize their front 7 and their scheme and their cornerbacks. And at a certain point, the Broncos are that team in the playoffs where, sure, the AFC is difficult, but not too many teams want to play them between the Chiefs and the Bills and the tough matchups they've had with Denver the last couple of years. And that shows 2 things to me. I think, number 1, this Broncos defense is one that can win you a playoff game if Bo Nix's able to play clean and the running game gives just a little bit more juice. Mm-hmm. But then 2, it's really one of those few teams like Pittsburgh that you don't want to play because they force you to play their own brand of football. And especially, when you're playing there as well, I just think this is one of the best stories in football this year. And then we talk about Defensive Player of the Year, and a lot of the guys have been dropped out of the conversation. Ian Hutchinson is another one of those names. And I joked with you before the show about it, but when you talk about DPOY, it's TJ Watt and Patrick Surtain, but after those 2 guys, it's a short list of names between Will Anderson, Nick Benito, maybe Danielle Hunter, and to have 2 of the top 5 candidates for Defensive Player of the Year, maybe 6 if we want to toss in Cam Hayward. It is a testament to the fact that this team's done a hell of a job drafting in recent years. The front office work has been really good.
We always believed.
Really, just maybe one move didn't work out quite well for you, but I think overall,
it's a fact.
It worked out quite well for us thus far through 8-9 games.
Russ had people wanting George Patton gone.
True, but I think that's really done on hero. The amount of talent and youth they've added in this defense the last few years, testament to pretty good drafting.
Yeah, I think, honestly, it kind of goes against what I was arguing earlier with Josh Allen Lamar. Like, Josh Allen Lamar, similar seasons, give it to Josh Allen. But that's how I feel right now with PS2 because he's having a great season. I'm not trying to undermine what he's doing, but typically these awards go to defensive linemen, right? Typically these goes to the guys that have 17, 18 sacks. They lead league in pressures, but I feel like there's not really a defensive lineman this season outside of Hutchinson because, of course, he got injured, a couple months ago, that's been having this unworldly season. Like TJ Watt, I think is 2nd in sacks right now, but he's like 25th in pressures, right? He's not consistent. He has one of the lower pass rush win rates of his career, although you could, point holes in that stat or whatnot. But I feel like all of these guys, whether it's Grenard, Hunter, all of the defensive linemen that are leading the league in sacks, like they're leading the league in sacks, but they're not having the type of impact that we've seen in years past from defensive players of the year. So when the reason why corners typically don't win is because it's very difficult to measure their impact, right? Like when Stephon Gilmore won it, he had a great season, don't get me wrong, but he also led the league in interceptions. The fact that PS2 has 4 picks is basically like leading the league in interceptions because he is the best corner in the NFL. Correct. He is now someone that more often than not should be throwing the ball his way, right? Like if you see PS2 on the right side of the field, no matter who he's on, if it's your wide receiver 1, my first read, no matter what the coach says, is I'm going to look left first because more likely than not, he's going to be locked up. So when it's a season where there isn't this like ungodly sack number or pressure number or a defense is just heading above everyone else, that's where I feel like you could go to a position that doesn't get as much credit as it deserves. Because like obviously I always thought in 2009 Revis should have won. Sure. And of course Stephon Gilmore a couple years ago, that was great to see. But Pat Surtain has been one of a top 2 corner, because Sauce fell off, has been a top 2 corner in football for years and years and years. But for a couple of years, the Broncos defense wasn't as great. Of course, you had just edge rushers and defensive linemen be dominating, so they were always in the talks for Defensive Player of the Year. But you have everything going for you if you're PS2. You are undisputed best corner in the league. You have one of the best defenses in football, and this is the year to do it. You have 4 interceptions, right? I'm rooting for him to win it because I really don't think the defensive linemen, any of them, really stand out to me. So it'd be dope to see PS2 get it. Nick Bonito's in there as well, but I think if you're giving to anyone on Denver, it's got to be PS2.
No doubt.
Even another player he's leading the league in sacks, Trey Hendrickson. He's not in the conversation because the Bengals suck and their defense is one of the worst in the NFL. Yeah. But a lot of these defensive players that are having great seasons, they're just in bad situations. I wanted to mention Jalen Carter because you talk about like not being able to measure impact, and Jalen Carter is one of the prime examples of that because he has a low sack number. It's not 15 sacks. It's like 5 sacks on a year. But he is the best player on, you can argue, the best defense, if not a top 2 defense in the NFL. Like, he is their best player. He makes that defensive line go, even though they do have a lot of depth. He's been able to play on rundowns as well. I mean, he's in the game almost 90% of the time. But it's hard, when a player doesn't have those sack numbers, you just don't think he's having that level of impact. Like Chris Jones, another one. This year, he's third in pressures. He's first in quarterback hurries. Like, he's getting after the passer, but the Chiefs kind of are not in the headlines for their defense. They're in the headlines for
literally
everything
wins.
anything else.
Winning marches.
Literally, the Chiefs are in the news for winning. I don't hear anything about Mahomes except now because, of course, the ankle injury. I don't hear about this offense. I don't hear about this defense. All I hear is the Chiefs find a way to win again.
Chiefs are 13-1, right?
Something. I think one less because they had their bye. So
12. You sure about that?
I think you're right because we just finished week 15.
I can't remember the last time a team was 13-1 with that many close, narrow. You almost had us once.
What were the Steelers a couple years ago? Ben's last year.
That was second to last.
Second
last year. Right.
They finished 1-5.
There's actually a pretty crazy stat that I have bookmarked on Twitter that there are only 4 NFL teams who haven't scored more than 30 points this season. The Chiefs 13-1, the Patriots 3-11, the Raiders 2-11, and the Giants 2-12.
That's hilarious. The Jets just did it for the first time against Jacksonville, so thank God we're on that list.
Yeah, thank God. But next topic. Was the Texans win over the Dolphins encouraging?
That's how we're spinning this? The Texans?
Yeah, was it an encouraging win? We just talked about DPOY. We're talking 2 DPOY level candidates,
Facts.
Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter. Mm-hmm. They imposed their will on this game. Tim Settle had an amazing game. The Dolphins guards really are bad. They're starting Jackson Carman, who was a former Bengal, who he wasn't good with them, so he's not good with the Dolphins either. Listen, the Texans off their bye week. I mean, they won a game. It felt like they might have not won this game really because
I was going to say
it was close.
I feel like a majority of us outside of Riv thought that the Dolphins were going to come in. Their offense had been clicking. But does this move me? No, because what the reality has become and what it's been is that when the Dolphins play a good team, they fall. And this time, I can't really put it on the defense because the offense was pretty terrible. Tua was not great at all. This was one of the worst performances I've seen from Tua. Probably this in the Bills game this year, the 2 worst performances that he's had this year. But to me, this is probably my least favorite because the Houston Texans defense hasn't been world beaters. I know that they have some really great defensive talent. Obviously, we spoke about Will Anderson. We spoke about Daniil Hunter. But I haven't seen them be this overly dominant. I just watched them against the Jaguars, and I know that they won. But Mac Jones was able to do a couple of things. they were supposed to play a lot better than what they put forth. And I know that Waddle went down in this game a little bit early on, but that's still after the fact that you had the fumble, that of course this offensive line's not good. We know that. But then you have that first INT that I hated a lot. It's just you're staring down your first read. Then you have your second INT where the ball just sails, and that's another one. And then the one to end the game, that's the one where I sit with, and I think a little 50-50. You're throwing a jump ball to Tyreek Hill. The conversation is, oh, well, why didn't you lead Tyreek Hill more down the field? To me, I see the safety playing over the top a little bit. It's one of those where you just try to put it on Tyreek and let him make a play. But Stingley's been incredible. He had an awesome game. He makes one of the most athletic plays I've seen from a corner. In my opinion, I think Tyreek Hill being one of the best in the game, he should catch that ball. It's at a high point where he has two hands on the football. I think Tyreek needs to come down with it, but nevertheless, you throw an INT, essentially ending the game for you. The offense is just super stale. You have no run game. This passing offense, when it gets figured out, now you have zero offense if you're a Miami Dolphins fan. And then you go and you look at the defense. The defense gave you multiple opportunities to stay in this game and give the offense a shot to go ahead and tie the game. Now, big ups to Tua on 4th down and 4th and 2 in the red zone, having that play to Jonnu Smith. Jonnu Smith being one of my favorite revelations of this season. But you didn't get the job done. And that's just the story of the Dolphins going up against great teams. So when the Texans go up against the Chiefs, when the Texans go up against the Baltimore Ravens, I can get excited. And if they go and they upset one of them, mostly the Ravens, because, of course, the Chiefs most likely will be without, it looks as if they'll be without Patrick Mahomes. They have 3 games in 11 days. That's ridiculous. So I'm assuming they'll rest him up. But when you're going up against Miami, it shouldn't move you, really, especially if you're one of those upper echelon teams, because we see Miami time and time again fall short against the best of the best.
Miami needs an entire cultural transformation, because this is a team that routinely the last 4 years has failed again and again and again. Just did it 12 times over against good teams. Mike McDaniel did a stat today. I'll say it, 3-12 versus playoff teams above 500.
I think it's 3-15 or 16.
So it's even worse than I thought.
It is.
And when you look at this matchup,
3-15.
The Texans' run game is stagnant. There's nothing. They're under 200 yards. It's one of Nico Collins and C.J. Stroud's least productive games of their respective careers. And the Dolphins have had chance after chance after chance, and they're going to have even more chances after this because their schedule is quite easy, I would say, with the exception of that Niners game, to finally get back on track, get yourself to 500, and give yourself a chance to get that last wildcard spot. And that stage, in this gotta-have-it situation, this huge game, Tua does have one of his worst performances. And I don't think it should fall entirely on Tua, nor should it fall entirely on the head coach, but there's something missing here. And I mentioned this last time I was on with you guys. It reminds me a lot of Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury in Arizona, where there is a toughness, there is a piece of this culture that's missing to where the team cannot maximize their talent. And oftentimes you can point to injuries. Maybe Tua has not been able to get on the exact consistent track with Tyreek. Maybe Tyreek slightly regressed. Jalen Waddle leaves the game a little bit. But I think the Dolphins cannot continue forward with this existing team expecting a different result next season. Because we've seen this for 3 years.
What would you change?
Nothing has changed.
What would you change?
I would be willing to move the head coach. At this point, you need to have some sort of change in the locker room for the culture, because I think this team is too soft. And that's what kind of gives me that Cardinals feeling from 2019, 2018, 19, 2022. I think this is one of the softest teams in the NFL, and that's kind of part of how they haven't been able to maximize how much talent is on this offense, because it is loaded when you look at the skill position talent. Offensive line, completely different story. In the draft, we went with the edge rusher. He's played quite well for you guys.
Chop's been him.
He's been really getting him good. This upcoming draft in 2025, they should take 3 offensive linemen. I think you need to invest as much as you possibly can, not only for Tua's health, but so that you can run the ball over the middle and have a more dynamic and complete offense. With the Steelers in the last 2 drafts taken Broderick Jones and Troy Fautanu back-to-back first rounds, and you're investing in Isaac Seumalo and James Dehls and Francie, and you're getting gems like Zach Frazier, Mason McCormick on days 2 and 3. That's what the Dolphins should do. They should literally focus on the offensive line, then the coaching, and then everything else, because this is a team that has just been one of the most disappointing, and I think it comes down to their play in the trenches.
Now, I think the head coach thing, the aspect of them not being tough, I think that's valid. I think the Dolphins went from one of the toughest coaches in the league in Brian Flores, who was an asshole, to Mike McDaniel, who is very enthusiastic and positive, and he's not willing to have maybe those tough conversations that somebody like Brian Flores would be more willing to have. He's more so going to try to be your friend more so than be a Mike Tomlin and be your head coach and an enforcer in the locker room. But that being said, I think it's really risky if the Dolphins move on from Mike McDaniel.
I agree.
Because it's been the only coach that Tua's been able to have success with. Brian Flores didn't work out so well. And listen, the offensive line does need an overhaul. But this team in general is getting older. They signed Jalen Ramsey. They've had him for a while. They signed Kendall Fuller in the offseason. When those two corners go, you don't have any corners anymore. Javon Holland is a free agent. Mm-hmm. Then when you look at the offense, Tyreek Hill, how much longer is he going to play? I mean, there's a chance that the Dolphins are looking to replace their corners, their star wide receiver, and maybe bring in some more depth in there. You know, there's a lot of things going on with this roster right now. And I'm not positive that Mike McDaniel is the coach of the future. But I'm a little bit more certain that he's not the biggest problem in this. Because I think with Tua, there's just a lot of things that you have to think about when calling the game. Mike McDaniel has reinvented the Dolphins offense from last year, and they have become a dink and dunk offense this year, and they have had a top offense. Tua, this season, is number one in success rate. Now, that looks all good when you look at it from, just looking at it, you're saying, wow, he's number one, but 25% of the Dolphins' passes come behind the line of scrimmage. So those successful plays are coming in situations that aren't difficult that Mike McDaniel has been scheming up. And that's why the success rate has been so high. And he's been able to mitigate the run game issues by making the quick game an extension of the Russian attack. With Tua, at this point in time, when you have to consistently question if a quarterback is your guy, he probably isn't your guy. And they have committed so much money to him. And as a play caller, just putting myself in Mike McDaniel's shoes, these are the things I have to worry about with Tua when you're calling a play. The lack of arm strength is one of them. But I think the biggest one of them all is that Tua has an injury history. And it's clear that Mike McDaniel loves Tua and he wants to protect them on the field as well and as a person. If my quarterback has a history of head injuries that are traumatic that I've been a part of and I've witnessed, am I going to be willing to call longer developing concepts to risk him getting hit in the pocket? No, I'm going to protect them a little bit more.
Can you draw up longer developing concepts with the offensive line allowing 21 pressures?
You can't do that, but Tua in this game, I think, was kept clean. Let me check it. I have the exact stat. Tua in this game was under pressure on 31.8% of his dropbacks. When he was kept clean, 1 touchdown and 3 interceptions, and he completed 82.8% of his passes. He wasn't under duress the entirety of the game. It wasn't like he was under constant duress. Disagree with this. And his bad decision-making came when he was kept clean. The Bengals don't have a good offensive line. They have one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL again this year. But there is just that trust that, okay, I know that you can be able to get out of harm's way. I think Tua, he doesn't have that playmaking in his game, so you have to call the game a little bit differently for him to protect him. So I think there's just a lot of there's a lot of guardrails and there's a lot of obstacles you have to go through when you're calling a game for Tua to protect them the most you can protect them, and it just makes it hard when in a game you just can't release the ball in 2.3 seconds every game.
No, you
just can't do that.
Nope.
You have to hold on to the ball longer. You have to wait for longer things to develop down the field. And just with this Dolphins team, they just can't do that in this present moment with this present offensive line, with Tua's injury history and trying to protect them. So I think there's a lot of things at play here. Where the Dolphins go from here, I don't know, because we also have to keep in mind that if Tua was healthy all year, this is probably an in the hunt team. They're like maybe 8-6 right now instead of being 6-8. But I think the Dolphins have to fix a lot of things. But what's certain is I don't think any Dolphins fan right now is certain that Tua's a quarterback or Mike McDaniel's a long-term head coach.
Yeah, I think we talk a lot about like being in purgatory. Kind of feels like where Miami is right now, where Mike McDaniel and Tua, they're obviously good enough, right? Like this isn't a situation where you have an absolute zero at head coach and quarterback that you're going into next year's draft free agency like, oh, we need a quarterback or else we're screwed. We need to fire this head coach and go hire Mike Vrabel, for example, right? The hottest coach on the market. they're not in that situation. But on the opposite end, you're not in the situation where, holy shit, we have Josh Allen. Holy shit, Jordan Love just broke out. Holy shit, we have Kyle Shanahan breaking out, and he's one of the best head coaches in the NFL. So they're kind of stuck in this middle ground where, when your parents always tell you, like, I'm not mad, I'm disappointed. That's kind of how it feels with Miami, where it's like, you have all the talent. You have Tyreek Hill and Waddle, and Tua puts up these crazy numbers. And last year, Achane was the most efficient running back in NFL history. You got Jalen Ramsey and Chop Robinson's got all these numbers. And it's like you have all of this talent, but then you put it together, specifically in the biggest moments of Tua's careers, and this season included, they just always come up short, right? That Green Bay game, they came up short. This Texans game, they came up short. And they could go out there, they could destroy the Jets 30-0, and they could beat up on bad teams, and Tua's going to have 400, 500-yard games and throw for 5 touchdowns and put up some insane statistical numbers, and I get all of that. But at some point, we're going to look at this Dolphins team, and I think we're doing it this year, right? I think we've been doing this for maybe the last couple of years, but really this season where it just comes to a head, where you paid Tua last season. So that's kind of ready over the hump. You already made your bed there. Tua's going to be your quarterback next year, whether you like it or not. And realistically, it's your best option. There's not going to be another quarterback out in the market that's really going to elevate this team if you insert a Sam Darnold, Jameis Winston level quarterback, right? That's going to make this all of a sudden a Super Bowl caliber team. But on the other hand, it's really difficult to envision this Miami Dolphins team at any point that they're going to be able to get a top 1 or 2 seed in the AFC. They're going to be able to beat 3 or 4 consecutive teams, whether that's Baltimore, Buffalo, KC, even hell, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, when they're, not the worst defense in football, and then go to the Super Bowl and play the best team in the NFC. It's really difficult to sit here and envision them going on that path where they, for 3 or 4 games in a row, are playing high level on both sides where nothing really goes wrong. Whether it's Tua having some bad interceptions, or the defense not stepping up, or Achane being inefficient, or McDaniel having his issues as a play caller. I do think of course, it's deeper than just head coach and quarterback, but that's where it starts in the NFL. If you're not great at head coach and you're not great at quarterback, it's just going to be really difficult to win a division. You put Tua on the Detroit Lions, and he has a great offensive line and one of the best play callers and all of these weapons. I don't know how much of a dramatic difference that Lions team is with Jared Goff and Tua. I think Jared Goff. I think it's pretty close between the two of them. Like, if you want to take Goff, sure. If you want to take Tua, sure. I'm not awfully mad over either of them, but if you put him in a perfect situation, I think Tua is good enough to get you a couple of playoff wins. Is he enough to get you to Super Bowl? I don't know. What I do know is if there's multiple deficiencies on a team, offense, defense, head coach, special teams, he's not going to be able to uplift you. He's not going to be able to take you from a 7-win team to a 10-win team. And when you pay him the $200 million, I think that's what you expect him to do.
I think everything you guys are saying is super fair. Listen, Joel, you and I have had, oh my God, insane screaming matches. I didn't hate a single thing that you said this time. I understand the statements made. Your issue is you have questions about Tua. That's fair, but I'm glad that you point to the health because that's facts. This offensive line is so horrendous. On top of it, Tua has the concussion history. If you try to draw up these deeper level concept or deeper down the field type plays, you're putting him in a situation where he's going to get injured. And now you're going back to where you were weeks 3 to week 7, where now we have zero chance at playing winning football. So yeah, that's a fair point to make. But now this just brings me back to the front office. It's not rocket science. You have a quarterback that is not mobile. You have a quarterback that is overwhelmingly successful when he has time to throw the football. And of course, Tua has the ability to get the ball out quickly, get the ball out on time, has anticipation, great accuracy, and that's been what's been the majority of their success. But God forbid you gave him an offensive line where he actually can sit and let plays develop, and he doesn't have to worry about getting killed. In this game, I agree with you. I just think Tua played bad. There's no way around it. And even in moments where he had time to set his feet and let plays develop, I think Tua just dropped the ball in this game. No way around it. But for a majority of their shortcomings this season, I look at this offensive line, its inability to pass block, its inability to run block more than anything, because at least in the past, there's a Band-Aid solution for that. Get the ball out quick. We have some of the fastest players in the league. Get the ball out to Achane in space. Get the ball out to Tyreek, Jalen. Even Jonnu Smith can go and catch a screen, and that can be our level of running the football. There's at least a Band-Aid solution. But for running the ball, If your run blocking is terrible and you're being met at the line of scrimmage, it doesn't matter how fast you are. It doesn't matter how elusive you are. You're going to get swallowed up. And we see that with Achane. So I agree with both of you guys. And Dehls, I said I love you because it's the truth. I think if Tua was on the lines, your statement was perfect. He's good enough to win you playoff games. Is he good enough to win you a Super Bowl? That's the question. I feel the exact same way with Jared Goff. So I'm not going to be a hypocrite and say, yeah, if he was on the Lions, that's a Super Bowl quarterback. I'd be lying. Because I think that is a perfect statement. You need a perfect situation around Tua. And whether that's fair or not, that's not the question. But we've seen organizations good enough that do that for players, and they play well above expectation. Jared Goff, Brock Purdy,
Jalen Hurts.
And if that's what you want to die on, that's on you, John.
That team is stacked.
If you want to say just like talent perspective, they're so talented, yeah.
2022 is one of the best seasons a quarterback's ever had.
I think Jalen Hurts is the most extreme example of that. We nearly heard earlier. Continue.
Jalen Hurts can go to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and you guys would still be a playoff team.
Yeah,
your offense would be better.
Honestly,
Russell Wilson's playing like a top 10 quarterback. I mean, before Pickens got hurt, he was playing like a top 10 quarterback.
Exaggerative statements.
He was, bro. Keep going.
Listen, when you don't have an elite tier quarterback, you need to have a stacked roster.
It needs to be that way.
That's what the Lions are. That's what the Eagles are. That's what the 49ers were last year with Purdy.
To a lesser extent, the Vikings, like an elite defense, one of the best coaching staffs in the NFL, elite weapons, right? Like it's not just the top 6, like, oh, you have to have Herbert. It's even like those middle-ish tier quarterbacks. Like Darnold's having a career year. He's playing out of his mind good. Top 5 MVP discussion. I think all of that is fair. But also, like, he's in one of the best situations in football, too.
I'm going to be honest. I think Sam Darnold has actually been really impressive this year because they haven't been able to run the ball all that much.
That's fair.
Like, when I look at the Buccaneers with Baker Mayfield, who's having a great season, the best season of his career, the Buccaneers have an elite offensive line, and they can run the fuck out of the football. Like, Bucky Irving, Rashad White, Sean it really does not matter. They can really run the football. Liam Cohen has been an excellent OC. I think he should get a head coaching job after this season. That's how good he's been.
I hope he sticks around, truthfully. I want the Buccaneers to build some.
Yeah, that would be dope. But yeah, he's done such an amazing job that I think he will get a head coaching opportunity. Sam Darnold doesn't have that rushing attack. Christian Darrisaw got hurt earlier this season, and they had to trade for Cam Robinson, who he's been good. He hasn't been Christian Darrisaw. And the interior of that offensive line also has not been good this year either. And Darnold really has had to make plays above and beyond and win them football games.
Underrated playmaker. That dude moves around in the pocket and extend plays.
So he has been really made some winning plays, but no, you have to have that infrastructure on offense. You know, Jared Goff is a weird case study because I do think that you guys aren't giving him enough credit. Jared Goff is one of the few quarterbacks that has went toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen before. He just threw for 5 touchdowns against Josh Allen. And the 2018 game when he was with the Rams, it's one of the best games ever.
He's had some perfect situations.
I think he's also just playing some really good football.
I agree.
He is.
I agree. But Joel, I mean, again, I'm a Tua fan. Everyone knows that. I'm not fucking hiding it from anyone. But I do agree with you 1,000%. Do I think Jared Goff's a really good quarterback? Absolutely. Do I think the team that he's on also uplifts him? No doubt.
Yeah. I mean, for sure. You saw those last couple of years, that last year in LA, like it was not the same level of efficiency when he was, had everybody healthy. And
Tuas of the world, I think what ends up biting them in the ass is that they're average starting quarterbacks that get paid like franchise quarterbacks. And now we do have a quarterback market that's ascending. That is that middle tier quarterback market. The Geno Smiths of the world. The Baker Mayfields of the world. And the Buccaneers just beat the shit out the Chargers. I mean, they beat them 40-17 the first half. It looked like it was going to be a shootout. And then the Buccaneers really laid the pipe on them in the second half.
The Chargers defense.
I'm still high on the Chargers defense.
It's losing me. It never had me, but
right now what's happening with them is that, they play a lot of zone defense, and I think their principles just in their defense is kind of getting figured out. Like the Jalen McMillan touchdown, where it was just a little rub route.
First or the second one?
He got the first one where he just came on a wheel route.
Shit.
No, because he really only did have one. No, but the Buccaneers are playing really good. They still have some key injuries on defense, but if this defense can play at a very good level, you get healthy with that offensive line, with Mike Evans, with Cade Otton, with how they can run the football. I mean, this is one of the few teams this year that has been able to say that we've beat the Eagles, We beat the Lions. We beat the Chargers. We beat the who else did they beat? Like I think they beat the Commanders as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Beat the Eagles, beat the Lions, beat the Chargers. They lost to the Broncos. Beat the Falcons, of course, but that's
No, they lost twice to the Falcons.
Oh my God, you're 100% right. They were blowing up. They were smoking. You're 100%
They're
right.
bad. Their bad losses are really bad, but they've beat the Chargers. They lost by 3 to the Niners. They lost in overtime to the Chiefs. They lost to the Ravens. But they beat the Eagles and they beat the Lions and they beat the Commanders.
Really good teams.
Commanders. That's
so
what
really
I was thinking of.
the Lions and the Eagles, best 2 wins of the season. They just beat a playoff team in the Chargers. Do you think the Buccaneers are kind of flying a little bit under the radar here? Are they a dangerous team? Are they the definition of a wild card team?
Yes, but to me, it's hard to. I don't want to be disrespectful, but it's going to come across this way. Are they a playoff team? Absolutely. Their division stinks, but I also think their offense is very good. Also, we can be honest when it comes to teams like the Buccaneers, or now I'm going to throw Seattle into this category too. They're playoff teams, and that's it. That's all we can look at them as. You're not a middling team. You're not a bad team. You're good enough to make the playoffs, but you're not good enough to contend. You're not good enough to win multiple playoff games. Would I be shocked if the Buccaneers won a singular playoff game? Part of me would be
surprised.
But they're a respectable offense. They can go out there and they can score points against any defense, really, or majority of defenses, I should say. Let me not say any. But even in this game where a lot of people love the Chargers defense. So I'll talk on the side of the Chargers being a great defense. You go out there and you have one of the best performances that we've seen against this Chargers defense, and you do this where, of course, you don't have Chris Godwin. Mike Evans goes out there over 152 tugs. You have Bucky Irving on basically half a hip. He still goes out there and balls. Like you mentioned, Joel, we've seen Rachaad White start to kick it up. This offense is amazing. And if this defense can just start elevating slightly, I know that the Chargers offense has just not been good these last few weeks. That's another thing that kind of makes me look at this with a little bit of a squinted eye. But nevertheless, what stands out to me the most is that this offense is still one of the best in the league. And even when you had that little bit of a lull, it was mostly because the team was banged up. You didn't have Godwin. You didn't have Mike Evans. But Cade Otton was starting to step up. Then when Cade Otton started to fall off, now we're talking about Bucky Irving being one of the best backs in football.
Yeah.
There's so many things to be excited about with this Bucs offense that's where I want to give them praise. But when it comes to the bigger picture, no, this isn't a team that I'm thinking about too much.
If you could just combine Chargers defense with the Bucs offense, that would be a dangerous team.
Now, you better tread lightly, because the Chargers offense has a guy that is untouchable in conversation.
Absolutely, but they can't run the ball for shit now.
They can't.
Right? J.K. Dobbins went down. Gus Edwards is so cooked, and Vidal just doesn't get enough touches.
And their offensive line sucks.
They have one weapon, right? It's just Ladd McConkey. But yeah, I'll be honest, I didn't really watch this game. There was 3 other primetime games to watch, and then I had Kyler Murray and Drake May in fantasy. So that was just one game that I saw like the highlights, right? Like when like Mike Evans is catching touchdowns and destroying me in fantasy, unfortunately.
He was.
That's really all I saw. But I think the Bucs, they have a really good offense. And to be in the division, and the NFC South division, where the Falcons, although I think they're up now, Drake London, who also might destroy me in fantasy, just scored a touchdown.
30-yard tutty.
Yeah. They're just a mess when it comes to Kirk Cousins, his issues, defensively really inconsistent. And then the rest of the division, like Carolina Panthers, we know that's one of the worst, if not the worst division in football. So you really just need one unit if you're in the NFC South to be at a high to elite level and you can win the division. I think that's what you're seeing with this Bucs offense, because when they have been healthy, and by healthy I mean just have Mike Evans out there because they haven't had Godwin for the last couple of months, they're going to be an explosive offense. And the fact that Bucky Irving is breaking out in the way that he's breaking out, doing it through injury too, like you mentioned, I hope people are starting to realize, like, this isn't just 2 months of Bucky Irving and we're over here trying to hype him up. Like, he is legitimately one of the best running backs in football. I test advanced numbers wise, raw numbers wise, he has been one of the best running backs in football, really, especially since the bye week, but even before the bye week on his per touch basis, he was super, super efficient, breaking tackles, 10 plus yard runs, everything like that. But their offense is dangerous, so they're going to be able to put up a lot of points. I just worry, you get the 4 seed, right? So you're going to be going up against the 5 seed in the NFC.
The Vikings of the
playing
Packers.
the Vikings, you're playing the Packers. Good luck. It's hard for me
Vikings, no way.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Good
Tough
luck.
matchup, no doubt.
Really tough matchup. I don't see I'd be very surprised if they beat either of those teams.
You don't see a path for them to beat them?
There's always a path,
Yeah,
but
home.
I think the Minnesota's
I'm making my
defense,
pick 'em, and I'm like Vikings. I'm not thinking much of.
I think it'll be a shootout more than anything.
More likely than a low-scoring game.
Agreed.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it'll be a shootout, and if you want to take the Vikings in that game, which I probably would do too.
The Vikings are 11-2 right now.
Yeah.
They've beaten basically everybody. You know,
I just think that, like I was talking, I think that this offense can go up against any team and put up points. I said any again. A majority of teams in the NFC, and they can score points. Every team essentially, but the Eagles.
They even put up points on the Eagles defense.
But that was before they were like that.
Yeah. That was before Cooper DeJean started.
The real breakout.
Yeah. But they ran the ball down their throats that game. You know, they were really imposing their will.
But we see the defenses, or the offenses that the Eagles have shut down since. So it's hard for me to look at.
Right.
We have seen it.
Steelers like 120 yards.
Dave Canales got a head coaching job last year because of the job he did with the Buccaneers. Liam Cohen's doing an even better job. This year, the Buccaneers rank on offense 5th in EPA per play. They're 4th in success rate. They're 7th in drawback EPA. They're 6th in rush EPA. This has been a top 10 pass and rush offense. And Baker Mayfield, I feel like he doesn't get enough flowers. I think he's probably the most underrated quarterback in the NFL. At one point, he was just thrown away to the side by the Browns organization because they wanted a mature quarterback, and we see how that's turned out. So I have canceled out Baker Mayfield's bad seasons. Is that fair?
Yes.
No, it's not fair.
No,
but
it's fair.
I'll say this.
Injuries, poor coaching.
With the Browns, he was there for 4 years.
The Browns.
His second year was with Freddie Kitchens as head coach. It was a joke of an operation. His last year, he was dealing with multiple injuries, and I don't count the year with the Panthers. So if we cancel out those years, Baker Mayfield...
We got to count year 2. Year 2 has to
Freddie
count.
Kitchens?
Yes.
I don't count that.
Year 4 doesn't count because that's the year that
was
everybody
playing
wrote him
through
off,
injury.
including myself, and I don't count the Panthers.
The only years I'm counting is 2018 is rookie year, 2020,
See, you're going for
2023, and 2024. Baker Mayfield, in
gotta
those
count
years
second
combined,
year.
Baker Mayfield's 4 best seasons, 113 passing touchdowns, 46 interceptions, a 97 passer rating. His OC left and got a head coaching job. Liam Cohen is about to get a head coaching job. Baker Mayfield is the king of turning offensive coordinators into head coaches. First is Freddie Kitchens. Then it was Dave Canales. Now
shit.
it's about to be Liam Cohen. I mean, at what point does Baker get his respect?
I have the same exact take that he was the most underrated quarterback in football. You can pose the question, is Baker a franchise quarterback? He won you a playoff game last year without a run game. Now this year you have a run game. Liam Cohen has done a fantastic job. And that was not the expectation when Dave Canales left. He was the quarterback whisperer, and he's done a very good job in Carolina still. But I think when you look at this defense taking a step back from last year, you still trust Todd Bowles to put together a good game plan in the playoffs with enough playmakers and pieces on that front seven to give you an opportunity to win playoff games. If Baker Mayfield wins another playoff game this year and the Buccaneers win the division again, you can start the conversation. Maybe he's not a top 10 quarterback, but can you be a franchise quarterback without being top 10? Kind of like maybe what Jared Goff has been. You can make that case. He is top 10. I think that's a discussion to have.
I think Baker Mayfield is just perfectly in the mid-level quarterback contract stratosphere.
You read me that stat. I don't really think the same exact way.
Here's what I mean is that
Because those numbers aren't real.
They are real. Those happen. Right?
Brother, we have to count the second year.
Oh, I agree.
Okay.
But we've seen the last 2 years, the performance that he's had, the play he's had. I think he's in the same exact tier. I think he's the same tier as Jalen Hurts.
Here's why I say this.
My
John.
fucking
and
God.
And Kyler.
What did Jalen Hurts do to you?
He didn't do nothing.
Just
to me.
beat
I
him.
wanted the Steelers to draft him. But I think at the top of that tier is Jalen Hurts at quarterback 10 to 12, and Baker's in that tier.
Here's the thing, John. How much you get paid comes with expectations. Baker Mayfield is getting $30 million a year. He's getting a Geno contract.
Elite contract.
So if he wins a playoff game, he's exceeding an expectation. If he loses, it's house money. It's not the same as getting paid $50 million. The franchise is on your back. If you don't win, now it becomes a problem.
Okay, but yeah, Jalen Hurts is getting paid $50 million. If you gave Baker Mayfield that supporting cast, the Eagles are still just as good, if not better, as a team.
if not better.
I think
Better's crazy.
I hate him. I really hate him.
that's not even that's not to
fucking hate
diminish.
this guy.
Hold up, that's not to diminish.
That's what you're
Jalen
doing.
Hurts. I'm highlighting the fact if you gave Baker Mayfield Saquon Barkley and offense lines,
Oh my
even
God!
better,
If you gave
at
Baker
defense,
Mayfield
it's
Mike
even better.
Evans, first ballot Hall of Famer, if you gave him
missing
Chris
what I'm saying.
Godwin,
Now you're
if you gave him a
misconstruing what I'm
stud
saying.
offensive line,
You're not
if I
listening.
gave him Bucky Irving, if I gave him one of the best receiving backs in football,
If you gave,
what was he gonna
He doesn't
do?
listen. If you gave Baker Mayfield a situation that's even better, that's what I'm saying. I'm not
This
diminishing
situation's still good as fuck.
Jalen Hurts is the top 3 situation in football. The fuck do you mean it's not? It's just
Baker's
good as fuck.
John, you're
It's
guessing.
elite versus pretty good.
John, you're guessing.
Wait. This is pretty
sure
good.
You can say I'm guessing.
Mike Evans is pretty good.
What you're saying is that
He has fucking AJ Brown, Devontae Smith,
Who've
and
been
the
hurt.
fucking
They've both
offensive
been
player
hurt.
of the year, and the offensive player of the year.
Mike
As
Evans
top
is
goal
good, though.
line,
Mike Evans
as top
is
tier
good.
defense.
You're cooking. You're cooking.
He has fucking everything, Drew. He's not
Wait,
missing
and
a
how did
single
Baker
thing.
Mayfield look when they got hurt?
he didn't look bad.
But he didn't look the same way he looked, obviously.
Against the KC in prime time, he played well. That was just with Kate Otten.
Facts. But that
And against the Ravens, he was all right.
and
That
I'll
was when
say
he got
it,
injured.
It was kind of written in the stars. Not saying that that's the reason why, but one of. Casey's defense versus tight ends is one of the worst in the league. That was kind of written for Kate Otten to go out there and ball, and Kate Otten had been balling up until that point.
Listen, John, I think you're losing the plot. I think what you're saying, though, is that
Guys, got to take too far.
if Baker Mayfield...
Like, that's all I'm saying.
what he's saying is that if Baker Mayfield was on the Eagles, they could win the Super Bowl. That's what he's saying.
I don't think they're a worse team. And the point is that Baker's in the same tier as Jalen Hurts to me.
You said if not better.
They're at best slightly worse.
Their passing game gets better at Baker. And I think the run game
Jalen Hurts
gets
is such a
worse.
better playmaker.
The run
God,
game
What
gets
he
worse.
could
I
do?
don't
Tush push?
understand.
Did Baker do the tush push?
No, definitely in short yard situations.
Fuck no.
Yes. But overall, the passing game, I think it could
Baker's
be better.
playmaking has been better this
No,
year.
he's not.
No,
he's
he's
not a
really
zero.
been
He's
doing
not
his
a
thing.
zero.
The short
Nah,
yard
that brother can
situation,
move.
Yeah.
the short yard situation's not going to be close. But I think the passing game would definitely be better.
I just think that
Overall.
he's in a perfect situation right now because of the contract he has. And it has allowed him to have more leeway in his
Not
play.
better. You're out of your fucking
I agree.
mind.
Yeah, John, because if the expectation for Baker was the same as Jalen Hurts, which is to be like a top 7 MVP candidate to go to the Super Bowl, the NFC Championship game, we wouldn't have these same conversations. The expectation for Baker Mayfield is to be like the 15th best quarterback. If you're the 11th best quarterback, you just had a great fucking year. If Jalen Hurts is the 11th best quarterback, that's disappointing. That's oh shit. What are we thinking right now?
Listen, I get it. But I feel like at times we underestimate Baker. Without AJ Brown, he beat
I'm not even gonna
the
disagree
Eagles
with you.
last year in the playoffs. He has
team
to
was-
exceed expectations consistently. My point is that Baker has consistently done more with less at times, and he's maximized some of these guys. I don't think he's better than Jalen Hurts.
What
I
has
do
he
think
done?
they're in the same tier.
He has done more with less. Which
Last
is
year?
one playoff win.
I mean, he won a playoff game in Cleveland as well, which is part of that resume.
Yeah, against your Steelers too.
Yeah,
Two teams that were falling apart.
I agree.
He did it. Don't get me wrong.
Jalen Hurts' team was the one that's falling apart. And without AJ Brown, their offense had nothing.
I don't disagree. What happened after the Eagles game
Which year?
last year?
They lost to the Lions.
Yeah,
was a close
still
game, though.
one score game.
It was close.
It wasn't one score.
No, I think it was like 10 points.
It ended up being one score.
But
Like
garbage
garbage
time
time?
touchdown thing.
Yeah, I mean,
It
they were
was a
trying to
good
come back. Yeah, but
I
no,
was
it
gonna
was
say, I couldn't
a
remember
pretty
the final
close
score.
game.
The Lions were winning comfortably
Comfortably,
majority
yeah.
of that game.
Yeah, I'm thinking the Rams game was close.
I honestly can't believe we let one of the best seasons we've seen from a quarterback. Just
Because he hasn't maintained that play.
poof it, huh?
He has not maintained that play since.
Let me ask you a question and answer truthfully. Why did the Eagles fall off last year?
Their offensive coordinator firing away.
Not the worst defense in the league.
Well, that's
No, we're gonna blame the offense.
The OC. Yeah, and you lose
Defense
AJ Brown.
was definitely number one. The offense wasn't.
It wasn't
too.
good either.
Yeah.
But the main reason
it's
for their
combination of
collapse
both.
was the defense.
They also couldn't move the ball at all on offense.
The offense
And
was
you
bad.
lost AJ Brown.
It was bad.
I mean,
So
they
the
lost
game-
9-32 against the Bucs.
It was
Couldn't do
31
anything.
to 23 final score. In the fourth quarter, the game was tied. They both scored the same amount of points in every single quarter heading into the fourth.
And then the Lions pulled
The
away.
Lions scored 14 points in the fourth. Tampa Bay scored 6.
One playoff win. Shout out to him.
But yeah, no, that game was pretty close. But
I don't remember it being close.
Neither do I.
you know, it was I remember there was
was back in
there
time.
was a moment in time where the Lions scored and then they went up 2 scores. And then, you know, the Buccaneers kind of had some drive stall here.
Didn't
and
know
there.
you were such a Baker truther.
I'm not.
You are.
I think he's like a top 12 to 14 quarterback.
Yeah, I think that
Hurts is top
I
10
think
to 12.
I think that comfortably makes you
So
a
you
Baker
think he's
truther.
better than Kyler Murray?
This year he's been definitely better, but overall I'd have them right next to each other, like 13,
Yeah,
14.
I think a majority of people would have Kyler.
Listen,
I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm just saying you're a Baker truther.
Listen, I'll take back one thing. I don't think they're better
Thank you.
with Baker
Fuck
because
no.
of the short
That's
yard
the only shit
situations,
that's the shit that really got me
But-
angry as fuck.
but I don't think their offense is going to be worse as a whole.
No, it'd be worse.
Well, the Bucs offense is better than the Eagles offense this year.
Bucs offense has been mad
it's
good.
been really good.
Baker also beat him in the playoffs too.
Also, Liam Cohen. I mean, he's going to get a head coaching job. He's really been good. I got one final question for you guys. Mike Evans right now, currently, is at 747 receiving yards.
The answer is yes.
Is he breaking the 1,000-yard mark again for the 11th straight season?
He needs to average 83 yards, if I'm not mistaken, around that for the rest of the season to get the 1,000 yards. He gets it. There's no way they don't allow him to get it. Baker Mayfield loves Mike Evans, first off. Secondly, Mike Evans is still a dog. He's still one of the best receivers in the game. He's going to get it, no doubt.
I think he's going to get it. Voodoo magic somehow, some way. Mike Evans winning it. Mike Evans getting 1,000 yards is like the Steelers having a winning record. They just figure it out.
I have no idea.
Except one's a champion in the last decade.
Oh, shit.
Do you need to know the matchups, John?
But I'll go with
He's got 3 games left. He needs to average, a little less than 100 per game.
It's a lot, but the performance that he just had versus the Chargers, it's really hard to say.
You're
no.
Chargers.
I'm not gonna bet against him.
This is your Bucks. This is Baker Mayfield throwing him the ball.
Cook him. Cook.
I think
you guys
Mike
really
Evans.
overestimated what I said.
I think Mike Evans gets this.
I'm really losing it. I must be. Go ahead.
I think Mike Evans gets this before the last game of the season.
Cook.
Next 2 games at the Cowboys, and he's at home versus the Panthers.
Oh my God, that's food.
And then the last game of the season is the Saints. If he doesn't get it by week 18, you got the Saints that you can get it against.
And I love that they have something to play for. So regardless, he's going to be out there on the field.
Mm-hmm.
They have to hope the Falcons win, so it does give them something to play for.
Now I'm stuck on this point. Where do you guys think Baker ranks?
He's like 11 to 15.
Yeah, closer to 15 to 11.
We're on the same exact wavelength.
But you worded things so poorly. They would be as good, if not better.
I mean,
Who said a better year, Baker or Russell Wilson?
I think
because Russell Wilson's been. You said he was been a top 10 quarterback.
Within the games Russ has played, Russ has been better than me. He's taken way better care of the football.
Baker.
He's taken way better care of the football. Russ has really only one bad turnover-worthy play. The rest of the time, he's done a fantastic job. I think Russ has played that good.
I don't hate this opinion. Yeah. I don't, because I think Russ has legitimately been really good. I don't think he's been better than Baker, though.
Gino or Baker?
That's a good question.
Hold on. Gino or Russ?
This season?
That's all I'm asking.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no shit. I would slightly lean Russ. I think he's been a little better.
I don't hate that. At least you're consistent. All right, Gino or Baker?
I think it's close. There's like Gino or Kyler and Baker. I'll go with Baker slightly.
Wow. Okay. Personally, I think Gino, given situation,
right.
You could argue even better than both.
He has a worse situation.
So do you think they could beat the Packers or Vikings in a playoff game?
Ooh, I really don't think the Buccaneers can beat the Vikings. The Packers possibly.
You think the Packers are
Jesus
easier
fucking
out?
Christ, John.
I look at the Packers secondary and I think
doing?
What do you mean?
I'm just like you. Baker gets all this hype. He's a borderline top 10 quarterback. Right. If he went on the Eagles, they would be arguably better. Your words, not mine.
The Vikings are an elite team. I think their offense is so good they can overcome maybe an average secondary. Team. I don't think the Packers' offense this season is humming at the same exact level.
Bro, the Buccaneers have beaten the Lions, the Eagles, the Chargers.
They've also lost.
Who else?
Like
I'm sorry, I'm mistaken. The Commanders. They've beaten some really high-level teams.
Shit ton of good
They've beaten
teams,
quote unquote elite teams. Can't you argue they can beat another?
They could, but
at home, I would expect a quarterback as good as Baker to be able to overcome some things. You know what I mean?
The Vikings are a top 5 team in football. I mean, that's the way I look at that matchup.
So. I really love Baker Mayfield, but
who's been better, Sam Darnold or Baker Mayfield?
Sam Darnold.
Thank God.
Sam Darnold's been better than Baker? I'm not saying you're wrong. But you must rank Sam Darnold highly then.
This season, I think he's been a top 10 quarterback.
So is Russell Wilson.
Yes. Those are the 2 guys around my top 10.
Off of this season, Darnold's definitely...
He's been amazing.
He's played like a top 10.
He's been amazing.
What's the side about?
Nothing. He's just a funny guy.
Dak's been hurt this year, and after the top 6, I think Russell Wilson and Kirk...
Who's been better, Bo Nix or Russell Wilson?
Sam Darnold. Russell Wilson's been better.
No,
you watched the last game? This is bias. This is bias creeping.
I know. Hey, I said he was not that great at all, but he bounced back.
He's had multiple, especially
not
the first
that great
month.
is
the
like
first month of the season,
nice.
Bo Nix struggled.
But think about it.
That's
starts the second half with 2 INTs. They cleaned it up. 2 touchdowns. Shout out to the defense. But he made some good throws, and the receiver sold him. We can't forget Cortland Sutton had a touchdown that he dropped.
I don't think there was one moment in that game where if the Broncos needed to drive 70 yards to score, I would trust that offense to do that.
Disagree. Think about what happened against the Browns.
All the field position was in their favor.
Dog shit against the Browns. Who answered? Bo Nix.
Nick Benito with the pick 6. Jaquan McMillan.
You're cooking.
My goodness, no, the defense has come strong, but No, I think Russ has played better. He hasn't really turned the ball over. I think you're overrating Baker a little bit, though. Like, in the grand scheme of things, I don't think he's a top 13-ish quarterback.
Yeah, it's how you're tricky
I think
right
he's
now.
more so. So do you think Baker's better than Brock Purdy? Like, flat out, just better than Brock Purdy? Not this season. I'm talking about just overall.
Am I crazy to say yes?
I don't think you're crazy to say yes.
I don't feel a certain type of way. I feel like these are two quarterbacks that are two of the better quarterbacks in the league.
That's the least crazy one out of compared to Darnold. Well, you didn't say Darnold, but Geno I think is better than Baker.
Yeah, I would have to go with Baker.
I think Kyler's better than Baker.
But Brock Purdy is a really tough quarterback to rank based off.
You think Baker's better than Tua?
Yeah, I do.
Better than Jared Goff?
No, I don't think he's better than Jared Goff.
Is Baker playing well in Miami?
I think he's struggling in Miami quite a bit. I mean, they're down both their tackles and their interior offensive line.
Fair. I'm not hearing anything more.
Do you think Baker's better, or is he a tier above, or is he in the same tier?
Above who?
Tua.
Oh, they're in the same tier. But
So
I
you
think
think Hurts is in that tier?
Tua's at the very bottom of that tier. Like 16th, 15th best quarterback. I think Hurts at the very top, 11, 12.
Is he better than CJ Stroud?
So where the fuck is
No.
Jared Goff?
Jared Goff would be 10. He'd be in top 10. Yeah, this season, yeah. He'd
You
probably
have
be
bad
7 or 8.
quarterbacks in the top 10.
No, I'm not. Listen, I'll give him a top. These are the top 10
You have
quarterbacks
to make
right
your
now.
list.
Okay, let's hear it.
I have my list ready. My phone's dead too. I don't even need it. Number 1, if we're going this year, Josh Allen 1, Lamar 2, Mahomes 3. You have Joe Burrow 4. He'd be above Mahomes this year. You guys get the point.
Yep.
That's the top 4.
Mahomes is the best.
5, Herbert. 6, Stafford. This season, Jared Goff 7. 8,
Herbert 5. Insane. Okay, continue.
Give a situation.
bro.
Fucking, I don't want to hear
Yes,
He
it.
one
doesn't
goal.
have shit.
Continue. Go.
All right. So 6 was Stafford. 7 this year, Jared Goff. 8 and 9, I think Russ, Sam Darnold. 10 could be one of Jalen Hurts.
Jane Daniels.
Jaden Daniels, maybe. I think
Jaden
Jaden
Daniels
Daniels.
has- this
He's the
season?
name I've forgotten. I think Stroud generally be
Jordan
that 10.
Love?
Love I'll get to. I'll go.
Fucking
Love's
cook
not.
this
Love,
idiot!
No, Love has not been top 10 this year. I think he's a little bit outside.
Since Toyota Thon, he has 7 touchdowns.
I know. It's been good. 10, I would have Stroud or Jaden Daniels this year. Jaden Daniels 10. I think 11, 12, and 13 are Jalen Hurts, CJ Stroud, and Jordan Love. After that, 14, 15, Baker 14. 15,
Wait,
one of Geno. 15, Geno, 16, Kyler. And then from there, take it the rest of the way.
Oh my God.
What, oh my God, what's so crazy about
I
that?
just hate you, man.
No, you don't have anything. You don't have any definitive.
I've already said
point.
so much. We have to move on.
Oh my God.
NFL Week 15
Yo,
takeaways.
you got a new phone.
I did. It's an iPhone 16 Pro.
Your old phone,
Dang.
your old phone screen was
An
was that the
AT&T
screen protector?
AT&T guy came knocking on my door, and I said, "Fuck it, I'll just get it now."
Oh, you probably blessed him. Probably got a nice commission off that.
Yeah, I know. I was a little bit of a hard ass with him because, bro, it was a long ass process. It was long as hell. We was in
Just
my
go door to door.
yeah, I guess.
Papa, do me a favor also before you tell the story. Get a fucking case and a screen protector.
No, I'm a caseless guy. I don't rock with cases.
Oh, we know.
Not even
That's
one
why
of
your
these simple
shit
ones,
looks
just
like
all
garbage.
black.
No,
Yeah.
I like feeling it.
I can
That
respect
might
that
be-
man to man.
I feel like it's easier to grip and harder to drop if you have the case.
I just have to protect it better. That's what
Yeah,
it is.
no,
No,
easily.
not crazy.
This
It's
shit,
definitely
this
easier
shit's
to-
slick.
Yeah,
That's slick.
It's slippery.
Nah, so let me
Yeah,
tell you the
low-key.
story. So I was playing Madden in my living room. I'm chilling. I'm having a good time. Like, I'm just
Vibing.
chilling. I'm enjoying my day. And somebody knocks on the door, and I notice it's like an AT&T guy. And, you know, he says some, like a sales pitch, and I knew it was some bullshit, but I bought it anyway. I was like, you know, I'm thinking about getting a new phone. Maybe I could rock out with AT&T. I had T-Mobile before. So he comes inside my house.
Oh, he switched carriers.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, that's
So-
definitely a process.
Yeah, so
Chelsea just did that. She said it was such a fucking
yeah,
pain.
he comes inside my house, and we're over here doing a process, finding like the transfer pin. My mom doesn't remember like her account ID or password because she's the account holder for T-Mobile. So we got to do all that. You know, basically, long story short, like an hour goes by, and I'm still stuck in this process, and I'm just kind of getting annoyed, and I don't want to go through with it anymore because we had this one last step, and I was kind of over it. I just stand up. And I'm just like, yo, honestly, bro, I got things to do. I ain't really trying to do this. Like, and I was like, honestly, you could just go, bro. Like, and the door was open. And he looked at me and he was like, nah, bro, I ain't going. he was like, bro, we right there. He was like, bro, we right there. He was like, he looked at me like kind of begging. He was like, bro, we right there. Like, bro, we right there. Like, no, bro, we right there.
That could have been his first sale of the month,
Nah,
bro. Who
that
knows?
ass,
You know
that
what I
ass.
mean? Like,
So I was just like, fuck it. Let's just do it. Fuck it. So then I sit down, and then the process goes smooth, whatever. They ship out the phones to me. It turns out there's a problem with my payment method because my bank thinks it's fraud and I have to report it so my phones go through. And then he's over here texting me and I'm just like, yo, bro, honestly, I ain't even trying to do this no more, bro. Like, they over here declining my payment method. Like,
God's telling you, stick with
I was like,
T-Mobile.
fuck this shit. And then whatever, the phone gets delivered to me. I have it already. And the process is super easy transferring your data.
Insane.
Yeah, like my iPhone, I just literally held my iPhone, tapped it, and all my data went to my phone.
They're moving different in 2024.
Yeah. And then I texted him. I said, you know what? I'll just stay with AT&T. Fuck it. Like I just wanted to minimize the hassle as much as possible.
You didn't.
Bro.
And you didn't.
No,
not at all.
I didn't. Yeah, no. It was the most annoying fucking process ever. But nah, the way he looked at me, bro, he was like, bro, we right there.
I wish I would have been there for that, man.
That
That sounds hilarious.
Like when I told him to get up, he didn't even like flinch. He was like, bro, we right there.
I said, I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. It's
He's like,
crazy.
bro, I'm not leaving.
Nah, he's real
That's
as fuck
hilarious.
for
He's like,
that.
bro, I'm not leaving.
He's about making his
He's
money.
about to get the sale. So NFL quick week 15 takeaways. Mine are really two.
I was going to talk about Brian Thomas, and then we spoke about him in the first segment, so it's okay.
Number one is Jordan Love a Toyotathon merchant?
Yes.
We
You're
now
real for
have-
acknowledging this.
We have updated stats on Jordan Love, not during Toyotathon, 29 touchdowns to 25 interceptions. Not that good. But during Toyotathon, Jordan Love, 26 touchdowns and 2 interceptions.
Shout out to Jordan Love, man. I've been telling you about Jordan Love for years.
In Toyotathon, specifically.
I have been, bro.
Are we at a point where Jordan Love is just a second half of the year quarterback? Is that where we're at right now?
2 year
with him?
sample size. So far, it's accurate. We're going to have to see year 3.
He also got hurt, you know what I mean?
He did. No, you're right. You're spitting.
Jordan Love's your guy.
I fuck with Jordan Love. He's nice. I only have one takeaway.
Wishy-washy with Jordan Love. It makes me sick.
I like to troll. My only takeaway, because we're a Jets podcast, everything sucks with the Jets, but I think they have one big takeaway from this season. I think the offensive line is fixed. John Simpson's been playing at an elite level. He's the 8th ranked guard, and according to PFF, Joe Tippmann back-to-back great years. AVT's been able to stay healthy. Morgan Moses on the right side. But Olu Fashanu, first-round pick, taking over Brock Bowers, all of this shit, didn't play to start the year. He's been tremendous. Against the Jaguars, he only allowed 1 pressure. A couple weeks ago, against Seattle Seahawks, allowed 0 pressures on over 40 pass blocks. He had the highest rated grade out of any Jet this past week per PFF. So Joe Douglas left us with one good parting gift. Olu Fashanu, hopefully left tackle of the future.
That's pretty awesome. I actually have something that I want to read to you guys, and I wonder if you guys can guess it. I was going to read it on the show last time, but unfortunately I wasn't able to make it, but I really, really appreciate you guys holding it down while I was unable to be present. Now, I'm really talking a lot here because I was trying to find it.
Jump in?
Here we go. No, I'm good.
Talk about Baker's.
I'm going to give you guys dates, and I want you guys to tell me what I'm talking about. Here we go. January 1st, December 17th, December 16th, November 24th, January 3rd, December 5th, December 17th, December 7th, December 8th, November 22nd, December 12th, January 1st, December 17th, and December 8th. What am I referring to?
Bro, I have no clue.
These are all this November, December, January. It's like,
You lost me to like the 4th date.
I'll give you guys another thing.
is it about the Jets?
It is.
Is it all of their losses to Florida teams?
No.
I saw they were like 0-14 against the last 14 Florida teams, and they beat Mac Jones. I don't know, because at first I was thinking like passing yards, like 1 for 3, but it's not
Right.
that.
No, pretty far from that, truthfully. Any clue?
Is the dates they're eliminated from the playoffs?
This guy right on the head.
And a couple of
Unfortunately-
Januaries in there, I'll take that.
Unfortunately for the Jets, things didn't go to plan this year, and I give dates because this is the week number that they were eliminated from playoff contention, dating all the way back to 2011, where the playoff drought has started, where it's now trending to the direction where now they're going to be by themselves, nowhere even close to the longest playoff drought, as it looks as if my Denver Broncos are going to clinch
Need
now.
the Falcons to miss, man.
That'd be huge.
I think they're like 7 years.
Here we go. Game number 16 in 2011. You guys
Love
fought.
that.
14
Rex
in
Ryan.
2012, 14 in 2013,
Trying.
week 11 in 2014, week 16 in 2015, Fitzmagic, he just fell short. Week 12 the year after, you try to run it back, no dice. Week 14, week 12 in 2018, 13 and 19, 10 in 2020, 13 and 21. Hey, 16 and 22. That one got close. Week 14 week 14 last year in 23. And then this year, it just followed suit with another week 14. Very brutal times.
A lot of those were
Mathematically,
Mickey
week
Mouse.
14.
A lot of those seasons, the season was over by like week 4.
I was gonna say the fact that week 14 was officially eliminated this year.
Probably mathematically, you know,
That's
they
what I'm saying,
they saved some things.
Because you need to get to like 9 losses. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
God, that really stinks. Now, my week 15 takeaway, I'm here having fun because, again, like I mentioned, I wanted to talk about Brian Thomas Jr., what he's been able to do this season. Joel and I, we've been very high on him. Of course, all of us really loved Brian Thomas Jr., but really, he's been an amazing performer for the Jaguars. But let's not talk about that. We can highlight him a little bit here because, of course, he did have 2 touchdowns this week. Now, I want you guys to do me a favor. Can you name me all the players this past week to score 2 touchdowns?
Nico
Collins did have 2. 17 yards.
Mike Evans. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Mike Evans.
that's
I know.
fine. Yeah, that's all right.
No, yeah.
I'll give you 2 guesses if you want, Joel.
I'm thinking of games right now.
This was such a bland 1 p.m. slate of games this last week that
There was hella touchdowns.
I
Yeah,
had
there
a
was
lot
a
of
lot.
like memory fog with these stats.
I promise you, I'm not looking at players. I'm just looking at teams.
This
and
is more
games.
so. Did you watch football in week 15? Go ahead, Joel. You can start. If you can rattle them off if you want.
Gibbs.
Gibbs did have 2.
Amon-Ra.
Amon-Ra did have 2. Wait, did Amon-Ra have 2?
Might have been one.
No, Amon-Ra did not have 2.
Devontae Adams.
Wow, you-
Devontae Adams did have
there you
2.
go.
Yep.
I think he had 1. No. I want to say a player on the Bills. I
Just
don't
say
think-
it.
James Cook.
Yes, he did have
There
2.
you go.
That's
What
a
do you
good
get on the
guess.
board, John?
That's a very good guess. Terry McLaurin was close.
Terry McLaurin did get 2.
Oh, he got 2.
He did.
Should have had like 4.
He balled
did
the
have-
fuck out. Yeah, he should have had 4.
Yep.
He should have. All right. One player here is kind of my guy this year. Pretty middle of the pack. Me and him have history. Drafted him in the first round in our Dynasty League.
Jerry Jeudy.
No.
JSN.
No, but JSN didn't. I don't think he did score. No.
yeah.
We
Which
talked about him
first
on the
round?
show today.
Talked about him on the show today. First round dynasty pick. Rookie draft dynasty
Yeah.
pick, you're saying?
Quentin Johnson.
No, no, a few years back.
Not
Oh, a few
Jay.
years back.
Yeah, if you're stuck on it, you can move on. I thought that you'd get it immediately with that.
Trying to think.
Jamison Williams.
No.
He had 1
that's a good
touchdown.
guess, yeah. I can't think of it.
This is not the week for me, I guess.
I'll tell you what, he was a surprise star this week.
Surprise star.
Remember you said that on his Alan Lazard in like week 2? And I was like, damn.
First round dynasty pick.
Y'all are going to make me give it to you?
Couple years. Pause. Couple years.
What year is
back.
this? Can you say that?
What do you mean what
That-
year? It's
that'll
this,
co-
this week.
No, I'm saying what year you drafted.
oh, fair enough. He got drafted. He's been in the league for 4 years.
Rashad
shit.
Bateman.
Yes.
Oh,
shit,
Cook.
That's amazing.
I did not remember you drafted him, I'll be
That's
honest.
an
That's all
amazing.
right. I
pull.
traded for Kevin.
Yeah.
I gave him the Devontae Parker. My gosh,
Oh,
Johnny
I remember that
Yeah,
trade.
I thought
My
you would.
goodness.
Yeah.
Devontae Parker. Facts.
7 touchdowns in the year for
All right, we
Bateman.
got
He's
a few.
underrated.
We got a few more running backs.
Okay, here we go.
Bucky Irving.
Bucky Irving's not here. A few running backs.
James Conner.
He is here. Absolutely. James Conner was
Did a
dominant this
great
week.
fucking game.
We got one of your guys. You got a couple of your guys, I should say. You talk about this one guy in the fantasy reaction a ton because he impacts another player. One of your guys this year.
One of my guys this year. Oh, Jared Goff.
No, running backs.
Charbonnet only had 1.
Was it Rico Dowdle?
No. Rico Dowdle had a lot of
Oh, a lot of
rushing, no
yards.
touchdowns.
CeeDee
Hubbard
Lamb didn't
didn't
have 2
have-
touchdowns, did he?
He didn't. Wait. No, he had 1. CD had
Have
1.
it.
Running back. Who's been one of your starts of the week every single week?
Chase Brown.
Okay, bang. He is here.
I was thinking about
He did
Chase
have 2
Brown.
touchdowns.
Tajay.
There it is. Tajay
Yeah.
did have 2
you go.
touchdowns.
Facts.
Now, one plays for one of your squads. The other is technically on here because he did score 2 touchdowns. But I will say he's not a running back or a receiver.
Josh Jacobs, did he get 2 touchdowns?
Josh Jacobs didn't.
So one of my teams, that's difficult.
So we literally only have 2 players left.
No one on the Chiefs.
2 players left.
Said a tight end did it though. If you're talking about another receiving, there wasn't a running back or a receiver, unless it was a defensive player.
No.
I feel like my brain would work right now in finals all day long.
It's not a running back. It's not a receiver. I will also say it's not a tight end.
Oh, quarterback. Who you got?
Okay, a quarterback had 2 touchdowns.
Gino got hurt.
Rushing is Josh Allen.
There it is. He did have 2.
Checks out.
That's one of his teams?
No.
Oh.
Damn.
The last guy is on one of his teams.
Let's see. Got the Chiefs. I don't think anyone did it. They only scored 21 points.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about it right now.
Seattle, Charbonnet didn't do it. He only
Can't
had
be
one.
the Jets. We already mentioned Devontae.
You did?
Brees only had one.
The Bengals.
What's your other teams, bro? The Bengals said Chase
We already
Brown.
said Chase.
We already said Chase Brown.
Jamar didn't get it.
Damn, is this really his team?
Who's your other
Broncos,
spots?
Cardinals,
I
Pacers.
thought of
I'm
5
looking down
of
the
his
list.
teams, and I don't think it's one.
Bills and Lions. I mean, Buccaneers and Chargers. Was it the Chargers?
No.
No, they only scored
Probably
Yeah,
the
17
dog
points.
shits. They were actually poop.
It has to be the Packers. Is it
And?
not? And it's probably Romeo Doubs scored 1 touchdown. I know that. And then
He scored 2.
He did
he
score
score
2.
I only
Brother,
saw that one.
I'm also going to
He
say
really,
this.
Oh yeah, he did. He really did.
That was one of the most impressive throwing catches I've seen this
That
year.
was a dot.
That was right on the money where only he could get it, and Romeo bugged the fuck out.
They've been missing him.
That was an insane throw. It was. Romeo Doubs also gets credit. He bullied his way into the end zone on the first touchdown.
I also bring this up because there was a tweet actually that someone put up. I think it was one of the sports betting accounts saying if you put all these into a parlay, all the players that scored 2 touchdowns, you would won $204 million.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't have paid you out.
They don't got $204 million.
That's true.
Yeah, you would have bet that money. They're not paying shit out. My last takeaway from Week 15 is that I think Dehls talked about the offensive line for the Jets being fixed. I think the Jets have to run it back with Aaron Rodgers one more year.
He texted me this after the game. I was like, oh fuck, bro. We just beat the Mac Jones Jags by
I know
teeth.
we barely beat the Jaguars. I know the Jets are 4-10.
You guys are so bad.
This season, the Jets defense, since Week 8, they're 29th in EPA per play. Since Week 8, Aaron Rodgers has 13 touchdowns, 1 interception. I think Aaron Rodgers is playing better. 23 touchdowns and 8 interceptions on the year. For him, that's a wash season. For us, that's one of the best quarterback seasons we've ever seen.
But the bar, we don't need to make the bar the ground anymore, brother. We could make it like
this is my reasoning for why the Jets need to run it back with Aaron Rodgers. What's the alternative? If we keep Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams is also staying for 1 more year. We can get a real head coach in the building. 7 of the Jets' losses have been by 6 points or less. We bring in a real coach like Mike Vrabel who could bring in a good offensive coordinator. The alternative to not bringing back Aaron Rodgers is signing a bridge quarterback. I know Sam Darnold is not going to come back to the Jets. He has already dealt with that trauma. So what's the other option? Jameis Winston? I'm good off of seeing Jameis Winston starts for 17 games a year. With all the interceptions and the problems that he comes with the turnovers, I'm good off that. This quarterback draft class, Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, the Jets are going to be out of reach to draft any of those two. Drew Allard just went back to Penn State. Jalen Milroe is undecided. Are we going to draft Carson Beck? I mean, who are we going to draft at quarterback this year that's going to make it worthwhile? Just stick it out 1 more year with Aaron. If we're bad, next year's quarterback draft class is going to be really damn good. It doesn't really matter. I feel like we just got to try to run it back 1 more year with a real head coach. That's it. Give us a real head coach. Give us a Mike Vrabel, a culture setter, and let's try to make the playoffs.
Listen, they don't really have many options. My takeaways this last week, I think the biggest one for me is the Eagles are the best team in football. I know before talking about Jalen Hurts, it's really tough for me to see a team that can, even Kansas City with the voodoo magic they've had, offset this Eagles team. What they have defensively, what they have offensively clicking, it is pretty tough. I think it's the best roster altogether in football. Secondly, 2018 quarterback class, you have Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, top 2 candidates in the MVP position. But then watching the way that Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold have played this year, we need to start looking at this as one of the best draft classes the last 25 years. Out there with 2020, maybe even better possibly with the 2 top end candidates. That'd easily be one of my takeaways.
Okay, I don't hate that. That's a good opinion.
I mean, how many quarterback classes are better after?
You're spitting. The 2020 class gets love, but this one might be better because Josh and Lamar are in there.
The only miss was Josh Rosen.
You do have Burrow and Herbert. With love.
With and Hurts.
And Tua.
Yeah, it's an unbelievable class. But
those 2 classes, they've got 1 and they've got 2.
You're spitting.
Only if Josh Rosen panned out.
Yeah.
I think it's okay given the fact that you literally have 2 and 3 in the league. And Baker's like John mentioned, 11 of 15. And Sammy this season has played near a top 10 level, which nobody ever thought.
4 quarterbacks top half, 2 in the top 3.
When you think about it, a third of the NFL, those quarterbacks are starting on teams.
Yep. Very true. Even a good backup like Mason Rudolph. Shout out to the Steelers fans out there.
He played like shit this past weekend.
I know.
Yeah, because he's not good.
I know. I just want to shout out my guy because he got us in the playoffs one year. And
he
then
was magic. He was magic.
Oh, it was a Christmas
He was
story.
good.
Magic Mason, that's what they called him, right?
Love that.
Christmas.
It was a Christmas story. Is that what you said?
It was a Christmas story.
I love that.
Christmas miracle.
Yeah.
Good job, John. Good takeaway.
And I'll wrap it up with one more take. I'm really anxious the Steelers are going to lose to the Ravens and give up the division hold, but there's just that part of me, Dehls, that gut feeling that you can be worried, you can be anxious.
You can.
John, I trust your insides when it comes to the Steelers.
You can run from it, you can dread it, but destiny arrives. The Steelers are going to sweep the Ravens this year.
You don't believe that shit, man.
I'll tell you what, if we keep Rodgers, locked on Jets for 3 minutes, if we keep Rodgers, I'll be down to keep Todd Downing.
Okay. Well, Todd Downing worked with Mike Vrabel in Tennessee.
Assuming we get Mike Vrabel. Yeah,
I haven't hated the offensive play calling.
No, I think it's been pretty solid. The number one thing that I think's really changed is this past week they were throwing the ball down the field. Like Rodgers had one of the lowest ADOTs coming into all season still, but they just did not throw the ball down the field. When you have Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams, just doesn't really make fucking sense. Yeah, I would also like to see Malachi Corley. Can he play? Because I think there is a 50% chance he's cut next year.
You heard that
yes,
Joe Douglas had Malachi Corley higher on his draft board than Brian Thomas Jr.?
Yes.
Damn.
And you know, there was also some intel from the Chargers front office, from Joe Hortiz, that it was never between Malik Neighbors and Joe Alt at the 5th overall pick. It was between Joe Alt and Brian Thomas Jr. That's who they were deciding on.
He cooked.
Yeah.
That Chargers front office has done a hell of a job last few years, specifically this last one.
It's a shame that they're selling.
What do you mean?
Down the stretch, they've been.
I mean, they're maximizing everything they got. Joe Walt,
3 of the last 5 weeks, pal. This all-world defense that you were fucking.
Hold up. I mean, it's been pretty impressive this year. First year,
like
in
I
DC.
said, 3 of the last 5 weeks.
A lot of rookies in that secondary. They've got multiple starters.
Oh,
that
no
are
doubt.
rookies in that
I
secondary.
agree with this.
Still is a top
I agree with
corner.
this.
Glad
I think he's third or 4th for
J.K.
defensive rookie of the year.
You see, who's one?
They had an incredible
Quinyon,
yeah.
I can't think of a
I'm
team
sorry,
that
I
had.
don't mean to disrespect you.
No,
What are you saying?
I can't think of a team that had a better offseason than the Chargers, besides the head coaching hire, what they did in the draft and what they had in free agency.
The only thing I got to say about the Chargers is that Jim Harbaugh
Broncos
has to learn from the mistakes of other organizations. Greg Roman had us thinking that Lamar Jackson wasn't a great passer. Like, the fact that he's the OC, they don't even run the ball well this year. J.K. Dobbins, since he's went out, they've really stalled out on offense. I just feel like Jim Harbaugh has to understand that a different OC has to come in there to maximize Justin Herbert. Yeah, I know it's another OC change, but we already seen Greg Roman. He's already held back one elite level talent. You can't have it happen to Herbert again. So only 2 major things happened that I really want to hone in on and just briefly mention. Patrick Mahomes, ankle sprain. He's day to day.
Week to week.
He might, week to week. We're not sure if he's going to play this week.
Get well soon,
That'll be
Patrick.
a huge blow.
Hope you're okay.
And Geno Smith suffered a knee injury, and we got to see Sam Howell completely stink it up.
I'm going to be transparent with you guys. I would be fucking lying if I told you I wasn't rooting for the Seahawks to come back and win with Sam. I would be lying.
He looked so bad.
He was dog shit.
I hope Mahomes plays because that's the Saturday game, right? The Steelers.
No.
Next week.
Christmas game.
Oh, Christmas game.
No,
okay.
they play this Saturday too.
You're 100% right.
Yeah,
they do. They play the 1 o'clock game.
I'll be honest. Because Christmas is a Wednesday, right?
They play the Texans this Saturday.
They do.
Yeah.
And Patrick Mahomes, before he went out, he was pressured on 50% of his dropbacks against the Browns.
I think it's just in chance.
You think Carson Wentz got something up his sleeve?
No, I don't.
Because that game Wednesday probably matters more than this Texans game.
I'm taking the Chiefs to win.
With Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think this is like a bounce back CJ game against that secondary.
If it's Carson Wentz, they're cooked.
Listen, I said every week I have to pick them.
But yeah, the AFC playoff hopefuls. The AFC playoffs are essentially set with the Chargers and the Broncos in the wild card spots alongside the Ravens and Steelers.
Hey, we're not locked yet.
Not locked yet. The teams that are in the race, Colts, Bengals, and Dolphins, have less than an 8% chance. The NFC playoff race is much closer. The Commanders have an 89% chance to make it. The Bucs are at 87%, and the Rams are at 54%. The Seahawks drop down to 37%. The Falcons are at 20%, and the Cardinals are at 12%. Now, the NFC South would be between the Bucs and the Falcons. We know that. The NFC West, the Rams and the Seahawks are now tied, and the Rams have an easier record down the stretch. And it looks like the Commanders are gonna get that wild card spot for sure.
Good for them. Yeah. I love that for the Commanders. As for my Ramley, good for them. Offense is really starting to turn shit around, and it really starts where the run game has been one of the main focal points. They really dominated the ground against San Fran and needed to, especially in the rain. But Kyron, and now you have the little punch with Corum in spurts. That's really been exciting to watch too. But I mean, Puka Nacua, dude. Crazy. Jesus Christ.
He's even better than last year.
I can't believe it.
Yeah.
Like, I knew he was
coming back from injury too.
We had him top 10. We did. And I think that he was going to stay. I didn't think that he'd enter conversations where people have him in tier 1.
Yeah, no, he's a dog.
He's nuts. Yeah. His footwork is perfect. His hands are amazing. A little bit better than last year. He was getting targeted a ton, so he had drops. But he doesn't drop a damn thing. His routes are clean as fuck. He's fast. He has everything.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, he's an elite wide receiver.
My Lord.
League. On to the NBA. The NBA Cup. We got the Bucks and the Thunder facing off Tuesday.
Fucking Darvin Ham, 13-0 in NBA Cup.
Who's winning that game?
13-0 is hilarious.
I'm taking OKC. It was a hot take, apparently, for me to take OKC against the Mavs. That was funny. That being said, no PJ, needle mover.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't
PJ
there.
was that one, not taking them.
Anyways, I think Milwaukee, they've played some solid basketball, but I think their path to get to the Cup has been They played a hurt Magic. They played the Hawks. Hawks have been playing some decent basketball against some really good teams, but OKC's at a different level. Hartenstein has been so great for them. SGA obviously is in conversation to be the MVP of the league. You have J-Dub playing at this high of a level. Alex Caruso on the defensive side of the ball. Cason Wallace and what he's been able to provide off the bench. This is just such a deep team. We talk about OKC every single week, and I'm happy about it. They deserve it. One of the most fun teams to watch. And right now, and I'm being sincere when I say this, I love basketball with my heart and my soul. It's been tough to watch games this year. I really don't love the product this year.
What about it?
Fouls are terrible. I'm watching this Lakers and Grizzlies game last night, and I feel like it's a perfect example of one. Lakers aren't really a great three-point shooting team. We let off almost 40 of those things last night. And I think our defense played the best that it did in probably all season long outside of the first stretch of games. But both sides, you would think, everybody says the Lakers have the best whistle in the game. We shot over 30 free throws. The Grizzlies almost shot 30 free throws too.
Yeah.
It's just an ugly brand of basketball that we're watching. It's just, and I said it to you, I don't love watching the Celtics play, but I usually love watching the Lakers play, and I haven't enjoyed it that much this year. I just think that it's been just late. I don't want to call it lazy, but when you see people settling for three-point shots just because they're more valuable and it's fair, it's analytical, it's not as exciting to watch. I like seeing somebody break down a defender, go to the basket. I love a highlight play. I love watching John Moran play. He just had a bad game against the Lakers. He goes 4 for 17. He does. Agreed. And AD was awesome to watch, awesome last night. But it's the brand of basketball that I'm watching that it's tough to see. And I know I spoke on earlier saying that when Jason Tim talked about the Celtics, it's like I can separate the two. The truth is, this style of basketball leads to wins. And the Celtics are amazing at this style. Is it fun to watch? No, it's not.
Yeah, not to get too off track here, but I do think there's something to analytics hurting the game because free throws lead to more stops, and three-point shots aren't aesthetically pleasing to watch when teams are taking 32 of them a game. And it leads to that kind of lack of character individually between teams where it feels like everyone's playing the same exact way. Even if they have different styles of play, it always ends up that same exact visual product. So I kind of can get where you're coming from.
John, I feel like you don't want to get too off track. I have OKC in this game. I think OKC is the better team. I think the discussion on the NBA ratings as a whole is an interesting conversation because the ratings are at an all-time low. Now, I wouldn't say like an all-time low, but they are lower.
Considering.
And that's kind of been the main thing that anybody's talking about on Twitter. I do think it's kind of a tired conversation because when you look at the viewership graph, it's not like there's like such a big decline. I think the decline is like, it's a little bit, but it's not to the point that it's like, oh, basketball, is dying or whatever. Mm-hmm. I do think that there has to be more of an emphasis on building up the game and the storylines around the game better, because I just watched the Larry Bird and Magic Johnson documentary and how that sparked interest in the league. Because looking at the timeline of the NBA, every single era has its guy, its star. In the 60s, it was Bill Russell, and I'm forgetting about the 50s, but I don't want to go back that far.
Bob Cousy.
Yeah, in like
Mike
like
the
in
40s.
Yeah,
into the 50s.
In the 60s, it was Bill Russell. In the 70s, it was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And in the 70s, there was actually concern that the NBA was dying because Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was kind of like a Nikola Jokic-esque star, where he's the best player in the world, but he doesn't really like the camera and he doesn't have that eccentric of a personality. In the 80s, Magic and Larry Bird saved the NBA, that rivalry, and it sparked the most legendary rivalry in basketball today, which is the Lakers and the Celtics rivalry. In the 2000s, in the 90s, we have Michael Jordan, who was a phenomenon from a cultural standpoint. In the 2000s, we had Shaq, we had Kobe, we had LeBron, we had Duncan, we had Allen Iverson, who he was a cultural icon in the 2000s as well. In the 2010s, we had LeBron, we had Steph, we had KD. In the 2020s, who is that star? There's been tweets on Twitter that I've seen that Caitlin Clark is more popular than any NBA player today. From
cooking.
Young stars, absolutely. She's more popular than Wemby. She moves the needle more than Anthony Edwards.
Yes.
She moves the needle more than Jason Tatum, than SGA. The NBA,
spitting.
Right now in this era, we are almost 5 years into this era, and we don't know who the mantle is going to be passed to. We don't know who that star, that face of the league is going to be, because it's much more than just level of play. It's marketability as well. Mm-hmm. And there's no player right now in the NBA that has that sort of marketability.
I think outside of Giannis.
I think players do.
I think Giannis is the guy that I look at personally. I think Jokic is defining an era this decade, him and Giannis themselves, but in terms of marketability, you see when it comes to all-star votes, Giannis gets more votes than LeBron sometimes. And that LeBron is the definition of the face of the league. Right. And Giannis is even competing with Bron with votes. I've seen Giannis get more votes than Kevin Durant. Giannis is a global phenomenon. That's something that we need to recognize.
It doesn't feel like it.
Can the style
I think
play,
it's because people hate on his
aesthetics,
game.
The aesthetic
Like
aspect.
I just don't feel like it feels like they move the needle like that. When I even go
Giannis is box office.
When I go on NBA's YouTube channel, when every Lakers game, if it's against like a Kevin Durant, that's getting 1 million views. The Steph Curry highlights, the Warriors, when his face is on the highlights, it's getting 1 million views. They're moving the needle for the league, and I just feel like right now there's kind of just like a stalemate where we don't know who that next star for the league is going to be. I also think that illegal streaming has played a big role in the viewership numbers not being 100% accurate, but the NBA has made it very hard for the average fan to watch their own team locally play. I mean, it's a disaster.
I think the other thing too is all of these eras you're going through, we love parity, but every era had dynasties like Celtics, Magic, Bird, Shaq and Kobe, the Heatles, KD with the Warriors. All of these teams and eras have had dynasties where there's been one team that has maybe not dominated for, the decade long, right? But they've always been almost an overwhelming favorite that on the other side, it's easy to root for them, right? Like there's almost a villain of the NBA where it's like, I remember when LeBron went to the Heat, I did not care who they played. I was rooting against the Heat every single game, no matter what. Today, I mean, Celtics won a championship. Denver won a championship. The Bucks won a championship. There's been different champions year in and year out. So I think what partially is they're kind of missing that villain. Like LeBron was the villain for so long. I fucking hated LeBron my whole life. KD when he went to the Warriors. And now there's not really the case. Like I think the best chance, like The Celtics, maybe, but even still, the Celtics don't have like Tatum's never gonna be a villain. Like he doesn't have the personality to be a villain. And as much as Jalen Brown has more just charisma and personality to him, he's not like a top 5 player that people are gonna really want him to be a villain.
Right. The NBA lacks storylines, and I think this is why like Trae Young versus the Knicks is one of those that maybe could become it, but
the Hawks have to be good.
Exactly. It's Atlanta. It's a smaller market.
Yeah.
It's not a smaller market, but you know what I mean. I kind of wonder, is parity a bad thing for the NBA? Because as a fan, I love parity. But for the product, it doesn't lead to those dynasties, and it doesn't lead to those storylines like LeBron versus Steph. Back in 2018, we were all tired of watching the Warriors and the Cavaliers.
Speak for yourself.
But looking back now, obviously, Cavalier fan, different story.
Looking
Other
back
28
now,
fans.
I think it might have led to where the NBA is at today.
Yep.
Because the 3-point revolution, we can acknowledge that Steph Curry changed the game, while also saying that effect also might have ruined the way that every other team plays the game, where it looks very similar.
It was fun to watch
the playing field
the
level.
Warriors do it.
It is fun to watch Curry do it, and I don't even think watching threes is not entertaining, because what is Caitlin Clark? She's a 3-point shooter.
She is, but when she has the ball in her hands, she's an amazing playmaker. She can get down. She was number 1 in assists, the first rookie to ever do that.
I understand that, but Caitlin Clark, the alert to her game is that she could launch 40-footers.
You're cooking.
Like that's the alert to her. I think that LeBron James going to Miami, the super team era, really.
Yeah.
I think that hurt the NBA a lot, because when LeBron did it, he became the biggest villain in the NBA, and he caught a lot of backlash for it. But then Kevin Durant one-upped him, and I think Kevin Durant might have just as much to do with ruining the NBA. OKC and Golden State could have been one of the defining rivalries in the Western Conference for that decade. But he went to Golden State and he stacked the deck, and that ruined a lot of the competition and the integrity of the game when he did that. And it birthed this super team movement where, every team since then has tried to build their own version, and it's kind of messed up teams' futures. It's messed up their presence as well if it doesn't fit automatically. And I think, there have been super teams in the past, but like the Lakers and the Celtics super teams were built organically. They weren't built by...
Yeah, but like Mickey Mouse
joining.
Organically.
I understand you, but they weren't built like, you beat me and I lost to you when I was up 3-1. I'm going to join your team.
Also, when we talk about the Bulls and their dynasty, Rodman going to the Bulls was a super cheat code. That was a fucked up move that nobody really overly cared about, that it was stacking the deck because Rodman had character issues.
They did lose Horace Grant, but yeah.
They lost Horace. Horace was huge for them in their first repeat. But then you got a souped-up Horace Grant and Dennis Rodman.
And Tony coach.
They don't talk about how Dennis was like, he's not KD level, but like the first of that type deal.
I also feel like
that too. It was Ron Harper and
another
they were
thing
stacked.
that's
also,
wrong.
I don't like when people compare KD doing what he did to LeBron what he did. I say that with the sole fact they were up 3-1. They were up 3-1. It is not the same what he did, because LeBron's GM was dog shit in Cleveland.
It wasn't the same.
Limited financial flexibility.
They also, he did shot the deck though. It was viewed as the worst thing until KD went up.
I'm not going to disagree either.
The team that's won the most games in history.
I'll say this though, I just feel like with the NBA, it's 48 minutes, 12 minutes a quarter. The NFL's 15 minutes a quarter, an hour game. NBA games feel longer. They feel like they drag on more.
And we know why.
Like,
that fucking whistle's blowing nonstop.
The TV timeouts. Like, I think an NBA game, when you're sitting down and watching the game, at most it should last 2 hours. Like, it shouldn't be lasting 3 hours long as much as an NFL game when there's less time in the quarter and the game's supposed to be faster paced.
The end of the game stuff too is, it's been like that, but I feel like over these last couple of years, you're up 4, you foul with 58 seconds left, and now all of a sudden just back and forth, foul. That extends the game by 20 minutes.
The last 2 minutes, exactly, the last 20 minutes. So there's a lot of things right now that the NBA has to fix within its product. I think making the game more accessible and just easier to find is one of the main things. But I remember one of these podcasts we talked. You brought up the point of divisions and them mattering. I think the NFL, the reason why there's so much history behind the NFL is because we care about these division rivalries. And you're a Steelers fan. You hate the Ravens. You hate the Browns. You hate the Bengals. I'm a Knicks fan. I know the teams in the Atlantic Division because I
talk
about basketball, but the average person isn't naming you every team within the division. And I think if the NBA truly wants to start building up storylines and building up history behind rivalries, they have to make division games like matter so much more. Where in the NFL, you're playing 6 games against your division opponents. In the NBA, you should be playing 10 total games. So that means, or you should, like I say, let's say, okay, each division has 5 teams, right? You should play each one of those teams like 8 times, or like, no, six times. So 6 times 4 is 24. You're playing them a quarter of the season. So all of those division games that you're playing against your opponent, they matter much more. And the seeding in the NBA maybe can copy the NFL style where whoever wins the division gets the top seed. So it doesn't matter about your record. You're 1, 2, and 3 if you win your division.
It's a fact.
And,
I like that.
And that makes rivalries, more apparent because now you're kind of building your basketball team stylistically to match up with your division opponent. That's why the AFC North has this, history of toughness because that's what their organizations are. Yeah. In the NBA, it just isn't like that. It's just like we're all trying to be Boston. We could give a fuck about the teams that we actually got to go up against in our division. Mm-hmm. We're all trying to be Boston. That's what we want to be. So we just want dribble penetration and we want shooters. And I think if they made division matchups more meaningful, it would create another layer of storyline and, just meaningness to the games in general.
It's hard to make it matter as much in the NFL, though. Just because, games, you know what I mean? Like, you only have 2 games against the Ravens. That's all you get is 2 games. Even in the NBA, it's like, shit, like, okay, maybe you only get 6 games, 8 games against the division opponent, but it's like, we got another fucking 80 games against everybody else.
That's the root issue. People hate me when I say this. The season's too long. They need to reduce the amount of games.
They never will, though.
And they never will because the idea is that you'll lose money, but if fans are really tuned out of your product, I think fan engagement and then your sales, which come from ticketing, revenue, everything economically, will then rise, which can cut that gap. And then ultimately, what happens? Stars are on the floor more. Zion Williamson played 4 games this year. Embiid 6. These are guys who you want to have faces of the league. And I think part of what I mentioned before, there are stars that are marketable. Shea's marketable. Anna's marketable. Giannis. Jokic, maybe not as much as a guy like Shea. But there's a lot of different guys they can market. I just think fans are a bit jaded by the product because of its similarity, game to game, and the fact it's too many games.
Also, it's a lot of small markets. Like SGA, you're in OKC. Jokic, you're in Denver. Like, these really aren't, like, you don't have, like, as great as Jalen Brunson is, one of the top 10 players in the league. He's in New York, right? If you had Nikola Jokic there, if you had SGA there, maybe someone who was more close to an MVP top 5 level, it's probably easy to market them. But all the top NBA stars are one European, which, I don't really care about, but there's people who want the NBA, who is the USA NBA guy. It's like the best ones, like Jason Tatum, right? And people have different opinions on him. And then it's all small markets, Milwaukee, Giannis. Like, I think that plays a part in it too, because if you would have had, like when LeBron went to LA, boom, big move. Yeah. But we really haven't had one of those stars. Like, I think if Giannis in some hypothetical world got traded to the New York Knicks, that would blow up the NBA.
Right. LaMelo to the Lakers, and I want to apologize before. I said Jokic maybe isn't that marketable. I think that's bullshit. Jokic has had one of the 5 to 10 greatest peaks of all time. I was talking about James Wilder.
Well, you could do that, but still,
one of the greatest peaks we've seen.
The Gru shit kills me, though. Like, I think unintentionally, Jokic is funny. Jokic is a funny, goofy guy.
He's a magnetic personality.
It's, to me, it's funny to watch him with the carefree mentality too. There's an aspect of that is kind of enjoyable. I just think the NBA doesn't realize, partially I'll say, that they have one of the best talents they've ever had in the league.
Yeah, he is the new Duncan, and Ant can be that Kobe.
I also feel like, it's just hard to market a center. Like, Hakeem Olajuwon had one of the best peaks ever in the 90s, and he wasn't like the marketable guy. Shaq put himself out there, but when you
that's like Shaq and Giannis. That's why I always compare the two.
Yep.
When you think about the 2000s, the cultural icon of the 2000s was Allen Iverson. Yep. It wasn't Shaquille O'Neal. Allen Iverson was the one that people wanted to dress like and be like and play basketball like, that he influenced people's games. So I just I don't think the NBA currently has one of those stars yet. Maybe they back them up with a ton of millions of dollars. I also think that every single person that has been propped up to be the next LeBron has failed. In the same way that people propped up everybody to be like Michael Jordan, like Vince Carter was propped up to be the next Michael Jordan. LeBron was
Grant Hill was on his way.
Yeah, LeBron was able to carry that mantle, but Zion Williamson, we propped him up and he broke down. Sometimes the league just gets unlucky when in Zion's rookie year, we have 40 fucking Pelican national television games and Zion isn't available for more than half of them. So, it's also, they've tried to prop up some guys and it hasn't worked out, unfortunately, due to injuries or other circumstances or the level of play on the court. But I think it's just the storylines, because in the NFL, I think the reason why it's booming so much right now is because of the quarterback play. That's the money maker. They're protecting quarterbacks, and there's no shortage of great quarterbacks. I mean, we just talked about Baker Mayfield being a potential franchise quarterback. He's like the 15th, 16th best quarterback in the league.
Don't say that to John.
The top guys in the league are just like they're just different. Yeah. This is arguably one of the best quarterback plays that we've seen in history, and the rivalries in the NFL. And I also think just the unpredictableness of the NFL, where we don't know who's going to win every year. Like, we don't know who's going to win the NBA, but we have a good idea that it might be the Celtics or OKC this year.
Mm. Yeah. What do you think about reducing series sizes from 7 to 5 in the first round? Something to make the playoffs a little bit quicker, a little bit more interesting, more upsets. More like March Madness.
I want to be against it.
I think there's just
that's
too
what they
games.
Added with the play-in tournament, and
it was a good idea, it's a good concept.
The play-in tournament,
but I think the play-in tournament kind of makes that issue worse, where it makes the regular season mean even less.
Because you just need to get 10 seed.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, it's tough. It's good points.
Yeah. So Dehls, you have OKC?
I got OKC. Yeah. Milwaukee's been playing better, but this is easily the best competition they faced.
Yeah, OKC is my pick, but this Bucks offense is super explosive. A ton of 3-point shooting down the board. I will not be surprised whatsoever if they drop 120 points with a hot shooting performance and get a W. I'll go with OKC.
Now, the Warriors traded for Dennis Schroder. They gave up second-round picks. They gave up DeAnthony Melton. The Warriors basically traded nothing for Dennis Schroder.
Down for the low.
And now this makes them better. It doesn't make them one of the best teams in the West, but it definitely fills a need, and maybe they can make one or two of these moves around the edges to help Steph out. But I think Dennis Schroder, he brings something that they don't have currently on the roster.
And that's someone that can also handle the ball outside of Steph Curry. And I guess I'll put Draymond Green in that conversation as well, because obviously he does initiate a lot. But Dennis Schroder, he's been one of my favorite players, role players wise, because of what he can do in the extra sense. You need somebody that can handle the ball, he can do that. You need someone that can attack the basket, he can do that. You need someone to space the floor, he can do that. You need someone to defend on the perimeter, he can do that. He does a lot of great things that every team can use. And for Golden State to get him at essentially zero, I mean, that is a huge lick. I've been vocal about it. I was hoping and praying that the Lakers would be the guy to go and get him back. But for the Warriors to go and do that, one, it's showing me partially that they're starting to care about Steph regressing, mostly his career ending. Because I still think that he's been an efficient player, just hasn't had the volume of minutes. They're trying to load manage to a certain degree and make sure that he's available down the stretch of the year.
Exactly. Steph's playing 28 minutes a game. You want to preserve that prime. And when you look at this Warriors roster, there's very little to no ball handling in that backcourt and shot creation. And Dennis Schroder gives you a mix of that in those 20 to 25 minutes a game, and he can play next to Steph. I think it's similar to when he played Chris Paul. It's a lot more team-friendly than when he was playing with LeBron, AD, and the Lakers, and he had to fit into this concise floor spacing role. I think here a lot of things open up for him to be more of himself and more of a creator and someone who can kind of eat innings here. If Steph's going to miss 10 games, then more importantly, he can even close in some matchups. But when I look at the Warriors, 3 games over 500, currently the 8th seed in the Western Conference, this is a good move. It makes you better. But I still think there's something missing if they want to go on a real legit playoff run. If they want a playoff series, I think so. But if they want to win now, I think they need to do something a little bit more. You guys talked about maybe a Butler trade. I think that's something they should pursue.
Aaron Butler's had a triple-double and overtime loss to the Pistons.
I was going to say Maxey.
Free that man.
Oh, wait. Yeah. Unless I'm looking at a different game. I think Maxey had 40. Maxey had 40 in a different game. Yeah, he had 40 against... Who was it?
I think the Warriors just need some talent, though.
Oh, the Hornets, sorry.
The Warriors really just need some talent. I know Andrew Wiggins has been sensational this season. I hope he keeps it up, but what we've seen the last couple of years is, super injury prone. Of course, he's dealt with some, personal matters as well. But we were talking after the Rockets and Warriors game. It's just like, they don't have enough good players. You know what I mean? Like, they have a super deep team where they go like 10, 12 deep some nights, but it's like, got Lindy Walters out there. You got AirPods, who's having a tough season. Brandon, excuse me. And even still, they were in last night and night before against the Mavericks, right? They were going tit for tat, hit like what was it, the most threes while losing a game. They hit like a ridiculous amount of threes in that game. So like they still have that kind of Warriors in them. Of course, still got Steph Curry, but they desperately needed a secondary ball handler. I mean, they've needed this for multiple seasons now. So it's great that they got Dennis Schroder, but he's also like a side dish, right? Like he's not the main course that the Warriors are going out and going to try to acquire to compete. Because if Dennis Schroder's the only move, good luck. Like you're still a first round exit at best type of team. You could lose in the play, and if Dennis Schroder is really the only adjustment you're going to make. But he's been phenomenal for New York, or for Brooklyn, excuse me, career year across the board. He's been great in different roles. Of course, he's not going to average 20 with Golden State, but they desperately needed a secondary ball handler. He's someone who could shoot. Drew mentioned all the skills that he has, but they definitely still need to go out there and get another legitimate star, like top 30 player in the league if they want to be considered any type of contender in the West.
Draymond Green talked about it that Dennis Schroder just offers something that they didn't have currently on the roster. Outside of Steph Curry, they don't have somebody that can run the pick and roll and break that down. And the Nets have been one of the league leaders in using pick and roll. Like, that's all they run, and Dennis Schroder has been at the head of that. When you look at how well Cam Johnson is playing, Cam Thomas before he got hurt, the best player on that team was Dennis Schroder this year. Mm-hmm. And now he goes to Golden State. Amazing. He's going to have more on-ball responsibility. He's going to take that load off of Steph. Schroder is in his prime, age-wise and basketball career-wise to where he wants to average 20 and 6. Like, he wants to be one of those guys. So I think this is a great move for them, and he's going to start alongside Steph. There's no way he's coming off the bench. He's already been named the starter.
He's too good.
He can kill in the DHO game with Draymond, bending corners and like the elbow and stuff along those lines.
It's a fact.
Two-man game. It's kind of crazy. He's in year 12 now, 2013 draft class. So he's
Dennis
got to
is
be
a good
30.
ball player.
And Dennis, 39% three-point shooter off the catch and shoot this year, almost 40%, close to it. So he can play off ball as well. But if you can have him running those actions and Steph playing more off ball, not exerting as much energy, it just makes them so much better.
Shout out to the Warriors, man.
And that's going to do it for episode 436 of the Pick a Side Podcast. You guys can follow us on Twitter at Pick a Side Pod, on Instagram and TikTok at Pick a Side Podcast. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.